How about that cigar?
How about that cigar?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 103 of How About That Cigar Live on a special Saturday edition. We're so grateful for you guys that you are here with us watching and listening. As always, if you're listening on the audio podcast after the fact, you guys are super special to us for watching or for listening to the audio podcast while you're driving down the road, working out, whatever it is you do when you listen to your favorite audio podcast. Thanks so much for joining us here live in the Drew Estate Cigar Studios. And as always, Drew Estate sponsors this show, and we want to tell you about the new packaging design for the famed Undercrown brand. A decade ago, the staff at the Drew Estate factory realized they had to reduce their consumption of Liga Privada No. 9 cigars in order to keep up with consumer demand. These hardworking men and women in Esteli then created their own signature cigar to enjoy. Constructed with many of the same rare tobaccos found in Liga Privada, the grassroots Undercrown cigar brand debuted, followed by Undercrown Shade, and then the Undercrown Sungrown. The new boxes for Undercrown Shade and Maduro are shipping now, with Undercrown Sungrown soon to follow. For more info, please visit drewestate.com. So, special Saturday show. We love having special Saturday shows.
We do. Absolutely.
And it's been quite a week, kind of a 2-week run of me having crazy long days, working full work days, and then working after hours, doing stuff like that. I know you've kind of been in the same boat.
I have. Yeah, it has been just a crazy couple weeks. Work has been really busy. We've had some cool stuff happening on the show, but busy is good. I'd rather be too busy than not busy at all.
Yeah, amen to that. But it's kind of been fun the last day or so. So apparently there's a great big boat that's stuck somewhere. So, and honestly, I mean, it is a tough situation, you know, having that cargo ship stuck in the Suez Canal. But sometimes you have to find the funny in rough situations. And some of the comedy that's been coming out online about this cargo ship being stuck, honestly, it's kind of gotten me through the week.
It drew a penis.
Yeah, it did. So that you see that Garrett showed me the picture of the GPS mapping from this ship, and it actually, just look it up, Google it.
So good.
It's just absolutely
you can't make it up.
You can't make it up. It's fantastic.
Oh.
So you know, we usually talk a little bit of small talk, a little bit of sports. There's really not a big amount of sports stuff going on right now. At least, I mean, yeah, not as far as stuff that we really get into. So we don't have a lot of that. And plus, the special guest that we have on the show today, we want to just give as much time as possible to. So we're going to dive right into it. And as always, guys, on How About That Cigar Live, special guests of the show are brought to you by Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com, the internet's largest and easiest to use virtual cigar store. Corona Cigar Company offers you the finest handmade cigars, humidors, and cigar accessories at the absolute lowest possible price. You'll also find unique and limited cigars containing Florida sun-grown tobacco. As a proud American, president and founder of Corona Cigar Company, Jeff Borshowitz, believed it was possible to bring cigar tobacco farming back to Florida. At Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com, you'll find the best selection anywhere in the world of cigars containing this special Florida sun-grown tobacco. If you live in Florida or are just visiting, be sure to visit any of the great Corona Cigar locations in downtown Orlando, Sand Lake, Lake Mary, and also the Davidoff of Geneva Lounge in Tampa. For more info on all of that, please visit coronacigar.com and floridasungrown.com. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, if you would please put your hands together for the great Carlito Fuente.
Hello, my friends.
Show, sir.
Good to see you, Matt. Good to see you, Garrett. And just want to say hello to all your fans of How About That Cigar, and of course to my dear colleagues and friends, your sponsor. You know, Drew Estate. You know, love Jonathan and Jeff Borshowitz, and we're, I guess, from the neighborhood, you could say. You know, and just great people. So it's good to be part of your world.
Well, we are just beyond grateful and excited to have you on the show. For some of my family and friends who are not into premium cigars, trying to explain to them, you know, what it means to us to have you on the show. I said if we did a podcast about Star Trek, we just got William Shatner as a guest on the show. So we're grateful.
Yep.
You know what? I was waiting that you were going to mention Spock, you know?
No,
I guess, no, maybe it's the green shirt, you know? Maybe it's the green, but no, I think I have my ears covered anyway, but no, listen, I appreciate that. That's very generous and a very generous description. I've always said to myself that, you know, I'm just a humble cigar maker, you know, born in that little wooden house in Ybor City. I just blessed to have been born in such a wonderful world of tobacco and cigars at such an incredible time that, you know, that is such a great part of my memory, of my heart. And all the great people that surrounded me in my early days and everything is just part of my life. And it is something that I just want to keep sharing and letting the younger generation know what this industry was like in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. And, you know, I'm just a very fortunate and blessed man, you know, being surrounded with so many wonderful, lovable people in the best industry of the world.
Yeah.
Which is composed or consists just that, just wonderful people.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to interrupt you, Matt, but let me just say, you cannot be in this world and be successful if you don't love people. In the cigar industry, I'm referring to, because it's not like a IT person, not that anything against them, because they all enjoy our cigars and, you know, and so forth. But this is the world of people. You know, it takes, we've heard it so many times, 300, 400 pair of human hands that goes through every, you know, from every step from beginning to end before cigars enjoyed. It's a community that requires so much, and it's in the farming aspect, the agriculture, and, you know, and the manufacturing, and it's all so much hand involved, in human element plays such a big part. Then unless you love human beings and you love to be around them and you love to be close to them, you know, and you're not afraid of that personal contact and that hug and what this, then you will not make it in the cigar industry. So I think that's one of the elements that's really made our industry so special, that I identify with all my peers, is that love they have and that respect and admiration they have for everyone who works side by side with them, for their customers, the retailers, the brick and mortar, and also for every consumer that they have a chance to reach out to, or a consumer has a chance to reach out. There's this communication that bonds us all together. It's a magical world.
Yeah.
I agree that there is a intimacy that happens within the cigar community that I don't see anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it is we say it all the time. Cigar people are the best people.
Yeah.
I love that. We should make a t-shirt, or you should.
Yeah.
Cigar people are the best people.
Yeah.
Copyrighted.
That's right. So going back through
Liana, I hope you're listening, Liana. You should be listening.
So we've been, fans of your brand, your family for years, and been fortunate to get to watch some documentaries about your family, some interviews and things like that over the years with you and other family members. And just this is one of those companies that is truly a family company, going all the way back to 1902, you know, and then all the different steps along the way, the milestones for the Fuente Cigar Company, you know, from, you know, your grandfather starting, coming to this country at age 12, and then, you know, starting a little factory at age 24, and, you know, all the things that led through that, to the hardships. And one thing, I don't know if a lot of people realize that you guys, you know, you and your father before you, you guys got knocked down a lot, but you always got back up again. And just talk to us a little bit about that family history and what it means to you, just to, you know, to always, through working together as a family, always persevering over those hardships that you had.
Well, my friend, you know, this is a topic that is asked a lot of me. And each time the answer will be the same, but each time it will bring out a different memory, because each time it's from the heart, it's from the memory, it's spontaneous. But you just made me realize, if you're are blessed to be born in the baseball world, the son of Babe Ruth, after what Babe Ruth had accomplished in his time, your life is not going to be an easy life. It's the expectation of you is going to be, so big, and they're going to expect, for you to be. They want to see how you compare to your father.
Yeah.
And I've always said that my goal in life, my dream has always been to follow my father's footsteps. I don't anticipate to fill his shoes. I don't think that, that's going to be humanly possible. Different times, different people, but I am a chip off the block. And going back, my father and I used to speak about this. It was scary because, do you have a light? He said, okay, never say, Spanish fuego. Never mention fire. That fire is a 4-letter word. It's not the only 4-letter word in the dictionary. And fuck, let me tell you something. We've gone through hell and back.
Yeah.
But in the history of, did I say that? No, please.
No.
Okay, no, I'm glad I didn't. I thought that though.
Yeah,
it went through my mind.
No censorship here. You say what you got to say.
Oh, okay. This is another program from Switzerland, right? Yeah. But no, this is fun, man. I'm enjoying it. But yes, fire. My father, I used to talk 8 major fires in the history of our family that has really set us back and destroyed us during the time when things always happens, in the time when things seem to be like, wow, now I got to win. We got to win behind our back. The sails are open and we're moving forward. All this work is starting to pay off. There's been a fire. And started in 1924 when my grandfather was a very young man. As you mentioned, he came from with just the clothes on his back, like so many families that came from Cuba at that time. Went from Havana to Key West and started making cigars there, working at the age of 15 so that he could send a few dollars back at the end of the month to his family who were tobacco growers or growing tobacco. But it wasn't tobacco like for big factories and things like that. It was not, it was after the Spanish-American War. So they were growing tobacco so they could make cigars, the brothers and the neighbors, and they could sell in little packets locally to the military, the soldier, and just be able to feed the family. So my grandfather migrated to Key West, so he could save a few dollars. At the age of 15, he worked at the Gato factory, which is a historical museum today of the cigar industry. And I'm very proud that we are pioneers of that era. My grandfather lived there and everything. And as a matter of fact, in 706 Elizabeth Street in the old Key West in Gatoville, there's a house where my grandfather first lived at, who he rented at the age of 15. And there's a park with a big cigar to the honor of the first immigrants and the cigar makers, with a big tribute to my grandfather. So, and then in 1920, he's in Tampa, and 500 cigar makers. He's the best of, he's doing well. He's becoming a real businessman. And he had a business partner, which is Victor Diaz. I remember I said earlier, I like to really talk about history and I like to recall the past. Victor Diaz was my grandfather's partner. Victor Diaz was the finance, I would say, entrepreneur and the businessman, and my grandfather was a tobacco man. He was the one that's in charge of blending, making the cigars, or buying the tobacco. And you know who Victor Diaz was? This is, a lot of people don't know this, but Victor Diaz is the great grandfather of Janito Oliva, the great wrapper grower of Ecuador.
Yeah.
Of Janito Oliva, John Oliva Sr.'s son. This was John Oliva Sr.'s grandfather on his mother's side. So that's how long families from these old worlds are intertwined and work together. And while my grandfather was in Cuba, he used to spend months there during the tobacco season, because that was the responsibility. The crops, it was a lot different. They had ferries in those days. You had to bring the tobacco, you had to set it, make sure it's packed properly and everything. During one of his visits to Cuba, he gets a call from Victor, from his partner, and it says, Arturo, we lost everything. There was a big fire. The factory burned down to the ground. We have nothing. We lost everything. Victor Diaz was a very wealthy man. My grandfather had acquired a lot of land during those days, but the land was what probably for $5 you bought an acre in the center of Tampa. You know, you got to think about everything is relative in those days.
Yeah.
But today, well, you know, thank God that my grandfather, it was such a proud man that he refused to file bankruptcy because he lost everything. He had to sell all his land and everything. Thank God he did. Okay. Thank God he did, because if we would own that land today, I may have never been in the cigar business. I might have been sailing around the world in a sailboat or something, you know, and I wouldn't have been a happy man. I would just been, you know, and nobody would have remembered history.
Yeah.
But things happen for a reason. But anyway, moving forward, you had the Great Depression, the First World, you had Second World War, First World War. It's just been one thing after another. Fires. Then we went, we had the Cuban embargo, which was one of the great first crisis. There was others, of course. You had the Depression. You have so many things that happen, and there's so many situations. But the first big, real crisis that changed the world, as we know it, as the United States of America and the cigar industry, was a Cuban embargo. Mm-hmm. And it was one thing that we survived that, of course, like everyone but not many people survived that. At one time, there were so many factories in Tampa. A lot of people are not aware of. I was born in 1954, and I grew up in a community where they were on our block. There was a big 4-story brick factory behind us. It was almost a whole block. They got the whole half of the other block. Across the street was another one. There were factories all over.
Yeah.
And in between those blocks, there were 3 or 4 houses that part of the house was this little cigar factory. I mean, the community was just, everything was cigars. At one time, Tampa, Ybor City, made 500 million cigars with Havana tobacco.
Damn.
That's a lot of cigars. Think about it. So, you get the first big crisis. There's no more resources. The embargo comes and everything. So we were forced to go around. We went to Nicaragua. We had the revolution, lost a factory in 1978. And then we went to Honduras. There was another fire. This time it wasn't a revolution. It was an accident. Come to the Dominican Republic, my father started with seven people. The first word was going to come out of my mouth a few moments ago was employees, 7 employees. I hate the word employees. These 7 people, the only people my father knew in the Dominican Republic. They were his immediate family at that one point. One was a carpenter. So he went out looking out, scouting for some person that was a carpenter. And one was someone who knew a little bit about electricity, but he started building this factory. He started teaching these people. They became supervisors. Many of them were with us for 30 years. And one gentleman just last year, Rafael Jimenez, we call him cariñosamente. I don't know why in this country, whatever your name is on the birth certificate is not what you're known as. Everybody has nicknames. I don't know why. But Rafael Jimenez Pedrito, our Pedrito. Pedrito was with us for 40 years and just retired. Wow. And he was already 78 or whatever. And just, it's part of the family. And you go seeing these things, how you come here and struggles. And listen, since we've been here, there's been one thing after another. We've had major fires, lost 1,800 bales of tobacco that it was, destined for a 100th anniversary cigar. It went up in the smoke and flames. And that was my inspiration for Angel Share. And, we could be on for hours and hours and hours. And Carlito Fuente, that was one of our biggest challenges of all. Mm-hmm. Being able to go rappers in the Dominican Republic. We even were in a lawsuit with the Rothschilds and the Mondavis, and everything was motivated by a jealous cigar company that Fuente was getting too much recognition, and they had to stop us.
Yeah.
But all these things. Hurricane George, the farm was destroyed, floods, just one thing after another. And the only thing that I know of, I've always said before, I was blessed to have a strong father who who the word, what the word if or the word impossible, I can't, didn't exist in his vocabulary. He was a man small in stature, but you couldn't measure his heart because you had to measure it from above his knee and below his waist. That's where he wore his heart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a man's man. And a boy that at the age of 8 years old had polio, and they predicted he would never walk again. He had to leave school, and he struggled for years, just going through therapy, trying to walk, and say, I will walk, I will walk, I will walk, I will walk, I will walk. A self-taught man who ended up balancing all our books of the company before he turned into a CPA, because he found too many mistakes that the best CPAs in the state were making. And some of those mistakes that were just a penny off that they would put in a suspense account, my father would go back and look for it and end up being $80,000 when he didn't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when you talk about things like that, you know, it's something that when you have that kind of example, it's like I said, Babe Ruth, it's impossible to fulfill those shoes. But I love to follow footsteps, and there's one challenge after another. There always have been. But my greatest crisis, and you know what? Now that I look back at it, first of all, I want to just say, listen, I'm not Superman. I'm a weak person. I'm a crier. I get emotional, because don't forget, my father's Carlito Fuente, but I'm also have the DNA and the genes of my mom, Ana Lopez. Ana Lopez, God rest her soul, who passed just 5 months before my father. Once she did, my father was. They were together since they were 14 years of age.
Mm.
And they were married when they were 17 going on 18. And I was born when my father was 18 years old and 11 months and 3 weeks. You know, and you look at these things and everything. And like I said, you know, I have a lot of my mom also. She was a person that, you know, the little birdies used to eat out of her hand, and so did other squirrels and so forth. I always call her my Snow White. But talking about crisis and so forth, I mentioned that because I'm not Superman, and I'm nobody that I just have great. I think that my inspiration comes from the respect, the admiration, the love, the determination that I'm going to die for this. Okay. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my life for this. It's to pay respect to my grandparents, to my uncles and aunts, to everybody who's worked side by side with our family, to my mom, to my dad, for everything, for all their sacrifices. It's, you know, and talk about crisis, and to me, crises have become, you know, opportunities.
Yeah.
And during, I don't know if this is a program for motivation or whatever it is. It's supposed to be about cigars. Let me buckle up. But anyway, you guys bring this out of me, and I appreciate it. I really want people to remember and know and respect whoever you are, wherever you come from, who were there before us.
Yeah.
And, you know, the biggest crisis of my life was having to live after my father, without my father. That's a crisis. That's the crisis that I've gone through. I will never get through it, but I've already gone through it. And as a young boy, nothing terrorized me more. No boogeyman, no monster terrorized me more than the day in my mind that I would be without my father. I thought it would be many years from now, actually. I thought my father was lived to be 90-something years old. He was a strong man.
Yeah.
And my grandfather to be 85. And everybody in the industry that I know, all the greats of the industry, lived to be 90 years old, because my father always said to my sister, Cynthia, and all the family, my mom and everything, listen, when I get to 90, do not celebrate my 90th birthday. Wait for my 91st. Because everybody, Edgar Coleman, Frank Yanessa from Villazon, I mean, everybody, the old school, Stanford Newman. I could go on and on and on, and on and on. Mr. Oliva, they all get it. They celebrate their 90th birthday.
Yeah.
It's a big accomplishment, 90th birthday, tobacco industry, blah, blah. And I've been to so many of those 90th birthday parties, and you see a lot of them in canes and everything, and talking about, hey, I used to make the best cigars in the world. These young people screwing everything up. And you hear, I remember going to those parties.
Yeah.
So my father said, don't celebrate my 90th, celebrate my 91st. And he lived to be 81. But, it's, you talk about crisis. That was the biggest crisis in my life. But during the crisis, during every crisis of our life, we've gotten stronger, and we've been able to, we became creative. We were forced to dig underneath and find whatever wasn't there to do something. And I know that in my 40 years here in the Dominican Republic, because that's really the history because before that, there was no cigar aficionado, there was no internet. Think about that. I've been here now for 41 years, living in the Dominican Republic. Before that, there was no communication. So people didn't really know the history and everything. So people started knowing a little bit about Carlito probably in the 90s. In those years, that seems like yesterday for some. For me, seems like yesterday. For many, it might seem a lifetime ago, because everything is relative. In those years, we've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations. But every one of those trials and tribulations, because of the examples of my father and my grandfather and the love of the family being together, we have been able to overcome it, not only overcome it and survive, but prosper.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that come out of all these fires that is incredible. And it's just ironic that you cannot enjoy a cigar without fire.
Yeah. And you have such a humility and a grace, and also a deep appreciation for what you have and how you were what you were brought up into. And a lot of that really comes from, and anybody who's been through any hard times and come through the other side of it knows that those things, the humility and the grace and the appreciation comes from the hard times, being able to live through it. And you really do, if you put your mind to it and you put the work in, which you have, you come out the other side of it stronger and with a deeper appreciation and humility for everything. And you are an example of that.
There's no doubt about that. Your words are true. Am I an example of that? I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor of that. And that's where the humility comes in, because you know what? The rug could be pulled off from under me at any second. It's happened before. And to be honest with you, I don't want my kids to think that I'm getting old or I'm getting weak. I want them to get stronger. Mm-hmm. And I want them to, if hopefully someday they listen to this program, if they're able to, I want them to get stronger and understand that in life, you're dealt with the different cards. It's like a poker game. You're dealt with different situations, different cards. You got to believe in yourself. And everything that you planted before, all the love, all the seeds of hope, all the seeds of dreams, someday you'll be able to harvest those flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes with honesty. It comes with integrity. It comes with consistency. Because when you're down, there are people there that will support you. That's why I say this business is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about relationships, but it's also relationships that works both ways. A steering wheel, you're driving down the street, but you can't go to one side only and the other side. And it works the same way with relationships. It's not about receiving, it's about giving. Yeah. It's about things that when they're needed, you're there to support each other. And through our most difficult times, we have had families who've been with us for generations, tobacco giants who have supported us. But also, when they lost everything with the embargo in Nicaragua, back in back in the 80s, and before anything that happened, the Fuente family was there to support them wherever they went and whatever they did. And these things today have paid big dividends. That's why I think it's so important. If, as I hear from Jose Blanco so many times, and everybody knows Jose Blanco. Maybe if they don't know him, I'm going to say the professor. They know who the professor is.
Yeah, there you go.
And like he says, you know what? I'm certain there's people that know more than me about tobacco, which that's disputable.
Yeah, that's debatable.
Yeah. But he says, but the difference is, and this is what I love about him, that most of those people are going to take it to the grave with them. And that's the way it was in the old days, the old school, the jealousy, the real competitive spirit and things like that. Listen, I'd love to talk about that if you bring it up a little later in the show. But he says, but the difference is that I want to share it with everybody who wants to hear it and wants to learn. And to me, that's so precious, so valuable. It's truly what I'm very grateful for this opportunity that we're having today and the opportunities of our show, Meet the Professor. That in the very beginning of the pandemic, I didn't even own a laptop. I'm on a laptop now. I didn't own a laptop, to be honest with you. And, that we've got to start, we just do a show. We got to be able to communicate. And the people that I've met, the relationships that have been built with people I haven't hugged yet, but I just had a conversation today. Listen, that I'm going to put that in. I want it inscripted on my gravestone with this beautiful woman from Lebanon who is so beautiful. And she's just special and everything. And she just promoted our cigars and took a photograph. And I said, listen, I'm looking forward to that. I could go to Lebanon. I had just had a big interview with a group of friends from Lebanon, and I hear such a great place. I go to Dubai often. Dubai is my second home because we do events. We have great relationships there. It all started with our relationship with Hublot because Dubai was a launching place for, it's all the great luxury products and everything. And I have family there. I mean, really family. Just so many people. Mohammed, Ferris. I mean, John Gallo. I mean, these are people who have become my friends who we speak to every week. Every week we say hello to each other. And I said, I'm dying to go to Lebanon. All this has happened since the pandemic. And also the most difficult time, another crisis that I went through is I'm going through now, trying to get out of it. The pandemic has not been that good to me. It's been very hard on me emotionally. It's been very hard on me being closed down for 3 months, people, being so back ordered. But that's the after effects. What really hit me is that when I was locked down in the Dominican Republic, because I had a choice, do I leave now or do I wait? And they said this was the last flights, the last American flights leaving.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lockdown. I told Mr. Sosa, who's 82 years old, and right now he's at the factory, but the factory's working today.
Yeah.
I am not with him having lunch and being with him right now in the factory and trying blends and this and that because I had this show and I wanted to come back, take a shower, and be on the show. But 82 years old, I remember saying, our great master blender, a man that generational from Cuba, the old school, one of the old, real, true people, doesn't speak much, would never get interviewed because he's not proud of his English. But I love it when he speaks English,
Yeah.
And he's there. And I remember the last flight, and I said, Juan, in affectionately, everybody knows as Juanito Sosa. Juan, you got to go home. It's time for you to go home. What are you going to do? Juan, I can't leave. I have to stay here with the people. You go home. I want you. He refused to go home. Relationships, my friend.
Yes.
That's what it's all about. And this gentleman, who's now 82 years old, is today at the factory watching everything because we're working Saturdays, trying to catch up.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you it's that love, it's that affection, that relationship, that family, which may not be your own blood, but becomes stronger than many of those or some of those that could be your own blood. It's about family. It's about relationship, about integrity. It's about being together when it's difficult times and being together when it's good times, and not forgetting where you come from.
That's right.
So the reason I bring that up, because I said, Juan, you got to leave. And he was here for 3 months and we're both locked down. And the pandemic was not easy for me because I heard the news from the States. That's all I could do is watch the news. There was nothing else to do. Lockdown. For the first couple of days, it was pretty cool. You know, you're watching a movie and everything, but I stopped watching movies, started watching the news. So you start watching the news and you get addicted to this stuff. What's going on next, this and that. And I really got in such a deep state of depression because I thought to myself, my God, people have been with me for decades when I have no communication with them right now. You know, many cigar makers, many blenders, many people in our industry, many people in our company. You know, we have close to 3,000 people who work with us between one thing and the other here in the Dominican Republic. Half of them may not be around if you listen to news coming every day out of New York. Half of them might not be around when I open a factory. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? How am I going to support Cigar Family Trouble Foundation without production? How am I going to support, all the people in our company, in the brick and mortar? You know, all these things started weighing heavily on me without an answer, because I already knew back in my mind, think of all the fires and think all the things my family's gone through. But you know what, my friend? We've gotten through that. We've survived. We've done very well. We restructured everything. We are back in track on production, but we lost 3 months. Don't forget.
Yeah.
And I think that through all crises, we come back stronger and more united than ever. And I think not the stronger, the more united, because I tell you something, through shows like yours and all the other podcasts, I am so isolated in Dominican Republic. And it's been I just heard a rerun of a show I did with Abe on KMA. And you know what? And when I listened to it, it was an incredible interview. Incredible. I really touched subjects that it was just really good. And I go back and listen to that, and I realize everything has a reason, a purpose. And we're going to be more united than ever, because seeing many shows like this, I didn't see my colleagues in the industry unless we're in a confrontation of different points of view, trying to defend the industry, whether it's S-chip, whether it's for FDA or this or that, or we're in a convention together, or we're all individually in a big promotional thing, individual, everybody's trying to do their thing, and we say hello to each other, bye, this and that. Or we go to a trade show and we see each other and we say hello. There's admiration, I'm sure, like I have for everybody. We say hello and genuinely, how you kids and this and that, blah. That's it. But watching these podcasts, watching these shows as the ones that you do and everyone else, I listen to my colleagues speaking, because there's nothing else for me to do when I was locked down. And I go, oh my God, there's so many similarities. We have so much in common.
Yeah.
And I see, and they have the same principle, the same values about family as this, and the things they've gone through and their struggles and this and their creativity. You know what? It just brought us all closer together. Yeah. And I know within a couple of months, when we're able to be together again, maybe it's next year, whenever it is, the hugs are going to be much more genuine. They're going to be much more profound, and they're going to be hugs that we're not going to want to let go.
That's right.
Amen. Carlito, it's clear in all the interviews that you've done, all the articles that have been written, and even here today, how important relationships and people are to you. The phrase that you continued to say that resonated with me, it's not about the cigar, it's about the people. That means the world to, I know, both Matt and I, and it shows in the product that you put out and the culture in which you've created in not only the cigar industry, but also within Chateau Fuente. And that's just an amazing thing.
Thank you, Garrett. No, I definitely agree. And I think people are beginning to understand. I come from a different world of the 60s and the 70s when manufacturers did not have an opportunity to meet the people who enjoy their cigars. Not in the way that we do today. You know, we live in a blessed world. I mean, back in the 70s, you were brand loyal, or 60s or 50s, but you didn't know who made the cigar or anything. You just knew the brand and you were brand loyal. You would go and you would buy a box every week or whatever you did in the corner or whatever it was. Today's a different world. It's just like people know who their chefs are, their favorite chef. They know who their winemakers are.
Yeah.
You know, they know the maker of their bourbons. They know the make, you know, the spirits, or, you know, it's, the world has changed, and it's a blessing for us. And it really is. Listen, like I said, if you don't love people, you will not survive in the world we're in. Not in this industry.
So
it's about people.
Absolutely. And that brings me to, you know, already you've talked about several people that have either been with you for many years. Before I ask that question, if we could ask, what are you smoking?
Huh.
And where can we get it?
Okay, you know what? You got to have certain secrets, because if not, you know, you no, seriously, you can't get it because nobody could get it. Not yet. This is a prototype, a cigar that's in production that I just keep tasting and seeing how it's developing.
Okay.
You know, I know it's going on a couple we're talking, but.
And so far, what are you thinking?
I think it's too short. No, but you know, everything's relative. So is taste and everything. But
yeah,
this is a prototype of a new Don Carlos size we're making.
Ooh.
And
so it's got the Cameroon.
It's got the Cameroon, Marifel Cameroon. And I know how special Cameroon. I know the relationship. I mean, we've talked about this many times. People are the tendency is to go to thicker, bigger.
Yeah,
bigger. And when the wrapper is so important on a cigar, I believe I was taught that by old school. Okay, I could go back stories about wrappers and things like that. What I was taught by the real the Cuban masters. That I'm not saying that the ones now, because I learned one thing from indirectly, I don't say, because what the Cuban masters were saying while they worked under the Cuban government was what they were told they had to say.
Right.
But once they're not working with them and they're on their own, they go back and, you know what? It's not much difference than what I was taught by the old school masters, because they know. But this is a cigar, African Cameroon. It's Lancero type, but just got a little bit more ring, just a little bit more. They get the perfect balance. I just want to work out because I want people to realize. And I think things go in a cycle. We're going to go back to old school.
Yes.
Where you get the balance. There is a reason. Let me tell you, my friends. Let me just tell you, my friends. I want to tell you something about. There is a reason why cigars, the most popular cigars were 5.5 by 42 or 6.5 by 44.
Reach.
You know, 6. There was a reason, because the tobacco plant, those old timers who lived on that farm, they didn't have TVs. They spend their life for taste and knowing the proportion of the leaves, how to make the cigars taste better so they could survive. They had to compete with taste.
Yep.
Not dollars and cents. Not marketing companies dictating to a manufacturer or a government dictating to a factory what cigars they have to make or whatever. or a big multinational corporation who has numbers people looking, look, this is what's selling, the market's going this way. Because after all, the truth is, I've learned this, and I'm going to tell you something I think I never said it publicly, but you remember I said this important, this documented, because maybe one day one of my great-great-grandchildren might see this. I learned something that many years ago, or it's not that long ago, but for you, it'll be many years ago. I remember that when the first Cigar Aficionado came out, Marvin Shanken and everything, but the first year that we were kind of getting acquainted and so forth, first cigar magazine comes out, and I see this description about hint of cherry and this and the blah, blah, blah. And I'm hearing all this stuff and floral, and I'm saying, what the F do these people know about cigars? I was never taught that way. A cigar could be bitter, strong, have sweet taste, acidy. There could be a lot of harsh. This stuff about hints of black cherry and the white, pepper and all these different things, and I say, my God, what the hell? This is not this. Well, who are they? So I remember I had a couple of conversations with this, and I was just honest, and I was a kid, relatively speaking, because you think about things, 25 years already. Time goes by, brother. Yeah. But I remember Marvin Shanker says, you want to learn what we're going to do with the cigar industry? What I've learned to do with the wine industry. At one time, wines, made in California, produced in California, were not popular today. California wines, we know what Wine Spectator, how they participated in building the Napa or the wine industry in the United States. Come to one of the wine experiences. So I go to the wine experience, and people are doing the tasting. I'm just somebody there in the audience. There were journalists there, all these things, and all the big chefs, the wine buyers, all the big producers. And I'm sitting by, and there was an event that was hosted by Australia. So I just ended up on that table because I used to walk in. I was nervous. I didn't know anybody. There were no cigar makers there. This was in the very beginning. Cigar makers were not involved. They didn't go. And I was curious. And there was a different world. That was basically right before the boom or before it really started.
Yeah. So
I'm sitting at the table in this big ballroom because every day was a different country will host something. It was Australia. So I'm sitting with these Australians and this and that. And, Australian wines were not getting the best ratings and this and that, and they're talking this and that. And one of the big wine producers that today, he's doing very, very well. Today, one of his wines, the most sought after Sauvignon Blancs in the market. But back then, it was probably a $38 bottle of wine. Today, you got to pay $150 maybe. But anyway, he took it and he says, I'm the cigar. What are you doing here? I said, I want to learn. He goes, let me tell you right now. It's all you have to learn. The ink is what sells. The ink, and I didn't understand what he meant. The ink, journalists, the press has a great influence on the perception of what people think and what they taste. So going back to that in the cigar I'm enjoying, it's been such a trend for all these big cigars and this and more filler and this and that. But you go back to old school, the Cubans knew their shit. Mm-hmm. The old school knew their shit. There's a reason why a plant only gives so many leaves of sun. And people are being forced today to be able to supply a market because it's demanded by a marketing company or a big CFO who needs to get more sales because there's a trend. They're using tobacco, which you should wait 5 or 6 years to use because they're forced to use it because they're making a big cigar. If not, it's not going to taste like anything. So it's just something that I believe that everything has a cycle. And I think people are becoming much more sophisticated and they're going back. Remember Fuente Besex, when it came out, it was out of the box. Yeah. It was the Joker, the Mad Jackal jumped out of the box. It was so different than everything else. It was such a strong cigar. Today, you smoke a Fuente Besex and you go, wow, it's not that strong. Because there's so many cigars, you take a puff and everything, and you're getting dizzy. They're so strong. And everything is relative in life. So, and I think that one of the reasons why we came out with the Rosados, the Magnum Mars, because I wanted to go back to old school blending and what my father had taught me, that you want to smoke a cigar when you get almost near the end. You know, you go, wow, I'm satisfied, but shit, let me light another one if I have the time. It's that thing you know, it's like the food is so good that you know you shouldn't eat no more, you're full, but give me a second helping, you know, give me a second serving. That's old school blending, and that's old school cigar making.
Love
you
it.
know, it's not the cigar that you smoke and you smoke half of, and you see them in the smoke lounge. It's half the cigar, this and that. It's like this real big. They only smoked half. If they knew what they pay for it, and they're only smoking half, if they measure it by inches, they just threw away half of their pocketbook. So, you know, things come in cycle, and you watch. It's going to go back to the classics.
I hope so.
It always does, because people like you, like you, Garrett and Matt, and so many others who are understanding this are starting to realize, and just, you know, and variety is a spice of life. I'm not saying anything negative about those real heavy ring gauges that are very popular now, but there's going to come to a point that people are going to say, wow, that's not comfortable, but this is comfortable, and I could really enjoy it. This is not knocking me down. This is not fighting me.
Yeah.
You know, this is not a struggle to dance with this person. This is nice. This is nice. Oh, I love it. You know, let me get a little bit more adventurous. Let me try to get closer and cheek to cheek, and maybe, you know, let's dance another song together, you know. And I think that I think everything happens for a reason. It's all in cycles, and we learn from all these things that we do.
So we've talked about some relationships. You've name dropped a few people. I would like to hear about a position at the factory or Casa Fuente that you think doesn't get enough attention, love, and respect. And then take that further. If you could tell us a story about a particular employee that has meant a lot to the Fuente family and where we are today.
Wow. I've never been asked that question. And that's a question that doesn't have one answer, but a history of responses.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, you know, I can't name one person because there's so many people. You know, I'm thinking. Oh, I don't know. Maybe, you know, I'm thinking to myself, at what era, what time? Because there was a Juan Sosa at one time for my father. His name was Ramon Gonzalo. He was one of my grandfather's dearest friends. And when it came to retirement, Social Security age and everything, he kept working. He didn't want to retire. He refused not to collect Social Security. My grandfather passed away. This man was up there in age. And he refused to leave my father alone. He was a person that had every nickname under the world that people make fun of. He used to be the one that used to open the factory, and he would be the one that leave with my father. He used to get down at 6 o'clock to my father's office, and he used to knock on the door. I used to go, look at the time, 6 o'clock. It's time to have a drink. Because he drank every day. You know, he was an alcoholic, drank every day, but he wouldn't drink during work. And these are the stories that I know. He was ridiculed. He was this, but he worked around the clock, and he refused to leave my father alone after my grandfather left. He was there by my father's side when my father needed him the most. And I remember even he was the one that was chosen for, like when I was very young, for Christmas, he would dress like Santa Claus. I remember all my cousins, we all, you know, and so who are you going to give credit to? Probably the person that, the one that's the least remembered or unknown is probably such an important part of that puzzle or building block then I wouldn't be here today without him. So I cannot name one person. I would have to name so many people.
Yeah.
Everyone has played an integral and important part in the process of where we're at and where we're here today. And this is such a complex industry process in the making of a great cigar that everybody plays a major role, from the person that is selecting the little seedlings all the way to the person that puts the cigar in the box and puts that last guarantee seal, to all the great team of sales managers that we have that built that it's the communication and the voice, and to reach out to the brick and mortar and to educate everybody. I'm just a small piece of a huge puzzle, and everybody plays a big part. And it's part of the leaves on my huge tree that gives me oxygen every day, that absorbs the oxygen from the air and gives me the motivation to continue, because it's not about me anymore. It's about everyone else. And to me, more importantly, it's not about the last 100 years, but it's about the next 100 years.
Yeah.
And generations to follow.
So, Carlito, I saw in an interview with your father that he mentioned at a time that you were still a teenager, that he sent you on some trips at the time, a few different trips to Dominican Republic to learn more about tobacco, about growing, selecting, all that. So when he sent you on those trips, what is it that you saw and that you learned on those trips that kind of gave you either inspiration or education to take the next steps as your own man, to, you know, take steps in the direction of really learning about this business that your family had been in for so long?
First of all, I'm very grateful to both of you, because you've asked some really well thought out, good questions that I don't think I've been asked before, that are very important, that maybe I've answered in a different way, or I brought it up because part of my life. But those are questions that are very deep and are very much who I am today. My father, in Tampa, we had 35, 40 cigar makers, 30, depends what time, what year, because every year somebody retired, somebody passed away. They were really up in age, and they were all old Cuban cigar makers who were colleagues of my grandfather, or started when my father was younger. And the younger generation wasn't learning the industry. And my grandfather would spend most of his time in Cuba. My father used to go to Cuba with the tobacco and everything. But being born and raised in Florida, and with the Cuban embargo, during my earlier years of my life, it was impossible for me to be around cigar, tobacco, agriculture, and to really learn the intricacies and the feeding of tobacco from the beginning stages. Because, if you're a chef, whether it's sushi chef or your beef, you really need to see how everything starts, and especially tobacco is very complicated. So at a very early age, in teenage years, I would say 16, 17, my father, he saw I had such a passion, because we used to have representatives come to visit us from Honduras, from Mexico, from Dominican Republic, because we used to use those tobaccos. And, the tobacco families would come, and I would always be sitting with them when they bring samples and looking at this and that. I was always fascinated and everything. And I didn't know it was because I used to hear in the back of my ear little whispers or something, that there were some good looking girls in Latin America or whatever. And I was young, full of hormones. I really don't know. I don't want to just say because I was a lover of the leaf. But I said, man, I would like to go. I would, Dad, see if I could go with them. I could learn. I was very hungry to learn. And I was a student of the past, because you have to remember, I was born in a clinic, but the next day I went to the cigar factory where my parents lived, because they were 18 years old when I was born. So they lived with their parents, and I lived inside the cigar factory because the cigar factory was the back part of the house of my grandfather's cigar factory. So they lived with their parents, but that was my grandparents, was the cigar factory. So I grew up there till I was around 4 years old, that my father was able to build his first house. So I was always around these old timers and these great masters, and they're telling me stories of growing up and the farms and the tobacco and all these things that I was memorized with. I mean, I just was, I was like a kid, wanting to go to, Disney World, that heard all these stories of all these fantasies that they had and blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying blah, 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 but that means that's a lot of years of conversations and hearing stories and everything. But so I had a deep attraction for this. And every time someone came to visit, I said, Dad, and of course they want to sell us tobacco. They were our supplier. Oh yeah. Anytime your son wants, I would talk to Don so-and-so and, be happy. But one of my first visits, okay, let me go back. I think that's one of your questions. There's so many of them, but my first training came in the Dominican Republic, actually, 1975, 1976, 1977. I came here for several years, and I would stay at the house of the supplier of our favorite tobacco, the grower and the person that fermented and prepared it, Don Jose Mendez, Don Pepe Mendez. Today, his grandson is the one that's really the head of the company, is in charge. It's Siegfried Marushki. I think a lot of people know Fito, Siegfried, but I remember Fito when he was just born, and that was quite a few years ago. And I used to go, I used to stay at his house because not only were we customers, we weren't a threat. We were a small company. Very few people knew who we were. So they see this young man. Also, it's very important to know, because we say that everything's relative. There was no one of my age and my generation interested in the cigar business.
Yeah.
Everyone whose families, all the families that were big, and all the old families, their children who were close to around my generation, they moved on to the real estate industry. They bought car dealerships because they were all wealthy families, not ours. I'm talking about the big companies.
Mm-hmm.
They went into the computer business, everything, because the cigar business during the 70s was just going straight down. Every day there was one factory less. Everybody was selling out. Mm-hmm. It was just, you had to move offshore. That the big strong companies from Tampa and the United States were just closing and selling out left and right. There's nobody of my age, so I was not really a threat. So I spent about 3 years here with one of the greatest masters to me, who I learned it from, was Don Pepe, and the people who work with him. I spent time with his son, who already passed away, and that was, to me, was an experience. Being in the farm, the tobacco, the box, the fermentation, the stripping, making cigars by hand from tobacco that's raw, the tobaccos. It was just, and I used to go back to Tampa with the old Cuban masters, and all of a sudden I was speaking a different language with them, and I had a little experience, and that motivated me. Then I was sent to Nicaragua, and I was sent to Honduras. And I'm going to be totally honest. I look back to that, and there's no Harvard, Oxford, or no Yale education that could give me what I was able to absorb when I was a blank slate, a computer with no information. Just the information I had brought back from Tampa. And I look today, when I was with some of the greatest tobacco growers of the 40s and 50s in Cuba, who I spent their last years in Jalapa, Nicaragua, Jamastran in Honduras, or here in the Dominican Republic as a young boy. Some of them were great farmers. They were the people who ran the farms for some of the biggest companies, the biggest brands. But they accepted it because I was Carlito Fuente's seniors son who was not a threat. So I was allowed to go in their factories, and I was in the factory with Estelo Padron, which is Frank Yanessa's factory, was a powerhouse as a young boy, and Estelo telling me this and this is what we do and that, and with all these different people. And I used to go out because I was a young kid, and people opened their doors to me. And because, again, my father was non-confrontational, and we were not a threat to anybody. So nobody ever thought we would ever grow, whatever. I was just a young kid. But to answer your question, the only thing I could compare it, that I was like that, you buy a brand new computer with no information. You have nothing has been downloaded. And I had no idea most of the time of what they were trying to tell me or teach me. I spent so many hours without any lights or anything like that in old wooden houses in the middle of nowhere in Jalapa, Nicaragua, as a young teenager, or an older teenager, my older teenage years. And asking stories about Cuba and talking to these old men, they would tell me stories of this and that, and asking about what musicians did you listen to, what songs, and I heard about these duets. And it was just absorbing and trying to gain their confidence, because I just wanted them to accept me. And you know what? Moving fast forward, those years, my younger years, all that fragments of information that I received from each one of these great masters, each one has a different book. They have different techniques. There's no two the same. But all these different things alongside with my father, the experience over many years, today has become part of the software that I carry in my soul. And they have been a big, everyone. There's not one that has not had a huge influence of what Carlito Fuente is today. And that's why I am so grateful for that opportunity, that I think that no one of my generation lived those days or had that opportunity. There was no one around in my generations. Everybody came after me, or the ones that were before me just not continue the family tradition, and they're not around.
Yeah.
But that's why, I feel that I've been very fortunate, and, some people thought, wow, you're sacrificing, you leaving all, the moments of the experiences of being a teenager in Florida, 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever, you were offshore doing something. I was born an old man, Yeah, no, really, I was born an old man. I have an old man's soul, but I have a little boy's heart, and still have a little boy in me. So if you want to talk about those things, Garrett, that we mentioned earlier before the show started, those things I don't forget. I still got the past of a little boy. And you know what? The older you get, it's true. I believe it. You get older, you start becoming a baby again. And I'm starting to become a little bit more spoiled. I need a little bit more help. I need people to cater to me a little bit more, and I need a little bit more attention. And that's one of the nice things of growing older and everything, and being surrounded with so many people that you love and love you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that actually kind of leads into, the next thing, because obviously before this is a family business that, was always that way. And now you've got the generation coming after you. And even the generation alongside you. I mean, I said it before, and it's just it rings so true for this family, is that it is genuinely a family business. And so, alongside you, there's your sister, you've got your kids, there's cousins, there's nieces, there's nephews. What is that? And now, especially, as for Garrett and I, also both fathers, and seeing our kids grow up, what is the experience like of standing alongside your own children, teaching them things that your father taught you and your grandfather taught you, and and seeing them take it in and learn it and experience it and taking it on to the next generation of cigar enthusiasts and the next generation of people out there in the world. What does that do for your heart as a father?
Well, I would never admit it to them. Hope they don't see this program. You know, I'm so proud of all of them. I really am. I'm a blessed man. I said that earlier, and I continue to be a blessed man. The love that I receive and the support I receive from my family, it's truly unfair to them. I don't deserve it. My children don't see me. I didn't see my father growing up a lot. You know, now things are, well, right now, now they could see me. I'm here locked down, but they're in universities. Life's that way. But when they're younger years, they didn't see me. I was in the factory, or I was traveling, or I was doing what I learned from my father. We sacrifice for the family. I think that my children understand that. I'm one of the fortunate ones that, to give you an example, I remember I played Little League, West Tampa Little League. People from Tampa remember that, And I remember, man, the first time that I closed my eyes and I swung that bat and I opened my eyes again and the ball was going off, went over the fence. I remember people screaming. That I will never forget that emotion that I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm coming back, I look back and first thing, hard for me to say this, because it's really digging deep inside. I look back when I was ready to get close to home plate. I look back to look for my father. He wasn't there. My father was working. My uncles were there. He used to send my uncles who worked with him to leave work and to go there to support his son. My father was never there. My second home run, my third home run, father wasn't there. And that could, to many children, that could really have, or could really create a big scar in their upbringing and their hearts. I was blessed that I understood, because never once did I feel neglected from my father's love. And the sacrifice of my mother, who didn't see him either, but knew that it was for the family.
Yeah.
And, those are things that today I look up and I go, man, I'm so grateful for everything my father sacrificed. He would have preferred to be in the beach with his family and having a picnic or barbecue. Of course, he was a real family man. Nobody enjoyed being around a dinner table with family, smoking cigars and enjoying conversation with family and friends of my father or my grandfather. This is what I grew up with. So, you talk about children, it's a different time. The world has changed. Things are different today than it was. I was in Nicaragua without electricity in the middle of nowhere, or the Dominican Republic or whatever it was, instead of, in the 1969 GTO that I had at home when I was 15 years old, or the Porsche or whatever. I was going down a farm with an old Jeep without a windshield and dust coming in because of, the owner of that farm, who was a millionaire, didn't want to buy a windshield yet, and then the foreman of the farm was, with goggles because of the dust. Different times. My son did not have to go through that. But my choice was for them to get an education and go to school and everything. I went to junior college. I went a couple of years, but I started going to Nicaragua, and it's just different. Everything is relative, and for their generation to be relative also. But I have the support because the passion that my children call me up sometimes and says, Dad, I saw the interview. You mentioned one sister. How about the other sister? And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are you doing? It's supposed to be studying. You're watching these broadcasts and the thing. They follow, they got the passion. They know, they love, and they're going to do well. And listen, my oldest daughter, Liana, she's, just like all of them, but she's proven it already. I mean, she's earned it. She's the oldest one. They have what it takes, and I'm sure they'll be fine. I'm very proud of them. It's just a great feeling. And, with my sister and all that, the family and her children, the only thing that I want is for them to be happy, all of them. Same thing my father taught me and taught my sister. Never, always was against me coming into the cigar industry. Always tried to discourage me. Always said, no, you search in your life. Whatever you do in your life, do what your heart tells you. Follow your passion, follow your dreams. Follow your happiness. What will make you happy? If you want to collect garbage, I will support you. But you fight hard and you struggle to be the best garbage collector. And everybody that you're going to pick up the garbage, you get to know their name and make sure that you are the best at what you do, and you'll be successful and you'll be happy. If you want to dance, you can dance ballet, but just fight hard to be the best ballet dancer, and I will support you. But don't come in the cigar industry because it's a tough industry, and you never know what's going to take you. I was living back then in Florida, and look what it brought me. Today I'm in the Dominican Republic, 40 years, going on 41 years living here. I never thought I would leave my hometown, where my grandparents rest, where my godparents rest, where my uncles and aunts and so many people I knew rest. I'm in the Dominican Republic, but this is my home now.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that destiny and God brought me here, because I wouldn't know either one of you. I wouldn't have met these wonderful people. My life would not have been as colorful as it is if it wasn't that destiny brought me here. And everything, we talk about crisis and everything. Coming to the Dominican Republic was a crisis for us.
Yeah.
It was a mode of survival. And just look, when you think about all the things that have been developed here, the I want to say reintroduction or the bringing back of the old classics like Figurados that weren't on the market when we came out with Hemingways. And look how many Figurados on the market. Everybody's making Figurados. Before they were just off the market. They didn't exist for decades. You look at cigars like with two wrappers that started with Between the Lines and all these little designs. That all came from the Fuente family. There's so many things that have come from the Fuente family that were the ones that really brought these things to fashion and brought them up and changed the cigar world.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for that crisis, that we had nowhere else to go, and opportunity opened up here for us. So you mentioned the program started with crisis and everything. I think that crisis could become opportunity. And if there's anything that I want everyone that's listening, or anyone who listens in the future, that never give up. Never give up. Never give up, because, listen, no matter how bad things could be, it may be that you're going to suffer, whatever it is, but maybe you're not going to go because you're going to save somebody's life. It's going to make a big difference in this world in the future. But there's always a reason for everything, and the only thing that I could just say or tell you, or my explanation for this, is that there's destiny. Things are meant to be and everything, and you just have to stand up, face it, and just do good, and do good to everybody, and don't expect anything in return.
I'm gonna piggyback on some of this a little bit, because one of the old adages is, don't get into business with friends or family. And the Fuente family has certainly defied that in spades. So if we can go back to Cynthia graduates college, and she comes alongside the family business. let's talk about those early years, your working relationship then, and how that's evolved to now and what that looks like.
Garrett, thank you. You know, I got to commend you, or compliment you once again. The questions that you guys prepared, because I know this program was spontaneous. I got a call yesterday that there was a situation if I would be on. And you said that you'd known about our family and you guys have followed. But you've asked some very, very important questions that are deep and very emotional to me. They have not been asked, and I think they're important for people to know, because Cynthia is loved by so many people, and maybe some people don't understand. But Cynthia is 4 years younger than me. And Cynthia was in the factory playing with me when we were babies. We grew up side by side. Cynthia worked in every department. Cynthia grew up in the factory. Cynthia has tobacco in her blood. No different than I do. Of course, I went to Nicaragua. I went to the Dominican Republic. I was the one they sacrificed. Okay, I was the boy. We could lose him, but you know, Daddy's girl. Daddy's girl was gonna be pampered. Daddy's girl was pampered. She was. Cynthia was queen of Latin Fiesta, queen of Latin America. Cynthia. Listen, Cynthia in her younger days, she was like the most sought after bachelorette. Cynthia Fuente, my God. The house was full of people, and you know, my mom had to tell so many phone calls, no, Cynthia's not in and everything. Because, but seriously, but Cynthia was always involved, always part of it. Cynthia went to university and all that, but Cynthia was the first female sales lady probably in the industry. Seriously, with her little briefcase and everything, while in university and after university, she went to visit every brick and mortar, every account, travel with a salesman. Of course, she was Don Carlos' little girl. She was very young, very, very, very impeccably beautiful, with a smile that would just steal your heart. And just being herself, because Cynthia's so lovable. I mean, she's so much of my mom. Yeah, she has a lot of my father. And Cynthia was traveling and visiting accounts, and Cynthia was in the industry. Cynthia was smoking cigars when she was 18, 19, 20. But the thing was, at that time, it was portrayed to be, because not that it was portrayed to be a man's world where women were not really a part of it. But let me tell you, that wasn't the Fuente family world, because next to my grandfather was my grandmother making cigars by hand. My grandmother, I have photos in the cathedral of our factory. We have what we call the cathedral, because each little station has like a story of history, like an altar. And you can see photos. My grandmother, 17 years old, making cigars at her father's factory. Her father, Oscar Trujillo, who had a cigar factory in Tampa before she met my grandfather. So, you know, it goes back generational in our blood. And you know, my grandmother was next to my grandfather. My mother made cigars, rolled cigars next to my father. And, you know, my aunts and uncles and some of the greatest factories in Tampa in the old days were run by uncles of mine. No, seriously. Yeah. When you think about the old Cuesta before it was before the Newman's Ball the Cuesta brand for the move from Cleveland, and even like Perfecto Garcia and some of these old brands, they were run by family members. Have a Tampa, okay? Mm-hmm. Have a Tampa when I think they were still handmade, and there was like Cuban tobacco in them and everything, even though they were popular cigars and it was a big company in Tampa. The general manager of Have a Tampa back in the 20s and 30s was my grandmother's stepfather, Baltasar. So, I mean, you think this is a community anyway. So women have always been a big part of our lives. We know that. but they've always been not made public. I never say that. Not that they were repressed or kept quiet. No, they were just. It was just, listen. There was no social media. There was no magazines about who the people in the cigar industry is. If not, but let me just go back to Cynthia. Cynthia was the first lady publicly to go out, blah, blah. And this is this young girl and everything. Cynthia did not distinguish herself as male, female. Cynthia was Fuente. Today, Cynthia's Fuente. And Cynthia, as they know her as today, is the first lady of cigars and everything. And mention about the first lady of cigars. We say the first lady because we go back. The people who've been around, who listen to this program, we know our queen of cigars is Diana Getz. It's one of the first retail ladies who really went public, fighting hard for people's rights and cigars in Chicago. And she always had that cigar there staunch. And she would love to be photographed with boots, leather boots above her knees, sitting on a Harley Davidson and dark glasses. She was president of, all these organizations. And that's one of Cynthia's heroes and leaders, as well as mine. If you come in my office today, you'll see a picture of me and Diana Getz, because in the coffee mug I drink my coffee, it says Diana. Anyway, because the women have always been a big important part of the cigar industry. I think they deserve the respect and admiration that I have for them, that everyone should have for women. And you mentioned Cynthia. Cynthia knows more about making cigars than I think some manufacturers who are making cigars today know. Cynthia doesn't say it. Cynthia doesn't talk about it. But Cynthia, to me, is oof.
Yeah.
She's all I got left.
I
love her.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one that loves her. A lot of people love her. They love her a hell of a lot more than they love me. That's for sure.
Well, this actually is good because it kind of leads into, because it's obvious that you and your family has, you're close. You have, you're all very important to each other. And part of that is, like you said earlier, you don't like the word employee. And for all the people who call Fuente their home, who work in the factories, who sell the cigars, who work in the fields planting and priming and processing the tobaccos and all that in between, there are so many of these people who, to remember that all these people are part of a family. All these people who work in the cigar industry are part of a family. And one of the things that I know is important to you is caring for the communities that you serve. And, from all the different charity work that you and the Fuente company does, talk to us a little bit about that charity work and why it's important to you.
Well, Matt, I think that it goes back to my upbringing. I think it all does. I don't think that nothing that we do or have done is anything that no different than what my grandparents did or my parents did, in a different way, because we have different opportunities now. And by that, I'm saying that I grew up in a community that it was a cigar community, and Old Ybor City, that I remember. I think that has so much to do with it. The things that I learned that I absorbed such from an early age, of what a community, of those special moments of my life. I grew up in a community that if someone had a fever or something, the whole neighborhood would be coming with chicken soup or this and that, or how you doing. If you're a child, they bring you a lollipop, whatever. I grew up in this community where, in this little wooden house with a tin roof, but it was full of people all the time. A community that shared. I want to tell you something a little bit about that community. People talk about social medicine. Ybor City has social medicine from the establishment of Ybor City in the cigar industry. The first. Cigar makers will give a portion or once a month pay something, and they will be a member of the Cuban Club, La Unión Italiana, the Italian Club, the Centro Español or Centro Asturiano, the Spanish clubs. And I'm talking about clubs that are palaces in those days. I have images in our factories that you see Main Street in Ybor City, and you see the automobiles, and you see the signs on the main street, the store, diamonds and this and that, and you see where people are dressed. Talk about the 30s and 40s. It was a community of progress, a cigar community. But people shared. They lived within the community and they resolved their problems. And I think that has a lot to do. In life, I've always seen my parents always share. I've seen my grandparents share. I don't know, it's part of our upbringing. But the privilege that Cynthia and I have, and my father had in his later time in life, and because we didn't have this privilege before. We could share chicken soup. We could share half a sandwich or whatever. And we always had a smile and a hug for everyone. I don't care if, no matter what, that was our greeting. That's the way the Fuente family is. We greet you with an open heart. We expect every human being to be a lovable person who's going to love us back. We believe in that. We believe in people. But we never had the progress or success to be able to do the things we're doing today. I learned not long ago, really, relatively speaking, and I owe a lot to, I think one of the ones that really had an impact in my life is Mr. Marvin Shanken. And I say this because I remember back in maybe it was 1995. No, it was before. I'm sorry. Probably 1993. And I have to say this because I have to be real and honest how things started really changing for us. I was asked by Cigar Aficionado to send a special box of cigars for an event they were going to have to raise monies for cap cure for prostate cancer, which is the cancer that affects most men, like women's breast cancer affect most women. Those are very serious cancers that affect the different genders. And I remember at that time, it's the beginning of Fuente Pasex, but it was something very special. And I sent a full box of A's for this event. I did not attend the event. It was the very first event. I didn't attend. So Wayne Suarez, my brother-in-law, attended the event. And, I was really pissed off, okay? Because I felt, I didn't want to give box of A's at that time. The box of A's to me, it was like, I'd rather have, if they told me donate from the elbow down, I might have done that before, or your Hublot watch, even though this one here, I won't donate because it's the only one I have, it's mine. But I listen, I would have, but I was like, box of A's? Wait, no, Carlito, you got to do it, man. This is for a big charity event, blah, 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 blah. And anyway, the box of A's went, this and that. So, okay. After the event, the next day I get a call from Wayne. He says, bro, you know what the box of A's went for charity? And I don't have any idea, man. What? Come on. So you have no idea. Give me a guess. I said, what? $2,000. Higher. 3, 4. And I started feeling a little proud by then. No, higher. This bottom line, after a long, $20,000 for 20 cigars.
Wow.
And I said, no, Wayne, don't tell me. I really was really all of a sudden, like I hit hard, like a train just had hit me in the chest. Wayne, don't tell me that shit. $20,000. Are they fucking crazy? No, really. I'm sorry to say the word. Okay.
No, it's all good.
But that's really my response. And I said, Wayne, I said, but I'm curious, who paid that much money? Who paid that much? And listen, God rest his soul, man. He was such a special person and everything, and he was so good to the industry. And got Rush Limbaugh, and $20,000. And remember, Rush in the old days was a much larger man, much heavier, and this and that. And I knew Rush. I had met him. And I said, Wayne, no, man, don't tell me that. Oh, my God, give me his address. I got to send him like 500 cigars, and I'm going to send him a limousine to pick him up for dinner at that restaurant in Italy that, Little Italy you can't get into and everything because maybe I know some people that do charity. So Wayne said, no, man, you don't get it. It's not about the cigar. It's about the cause. It's not about the cigar. It's about cancer, about the cause. And I said, Wayne, I don't want to run 20 cigars. I didn't check. What if one of those cigars don't draw? I swear to God, I told him that. I swear, I was like, it did not sink into me. I cannot decipher the logic of this. And I said, this guy is huge. I'll be walking down the airport one day. Oh, Carlito, that box, boom. That's what I thought in my mind because that would be my reaction. Hey, I paid $20,000 for a box of cigars and one don't draw, one don't like. I will, so really, this what really started. I started realizing it's not about cigars. It's about the people.
Yeah.
It's about the cause. And this opened a door for me to start creating things. This is where all these cigars that you see now that people are making with these little designs and all these different shapes and everything, it all started from that reaction of that wait, there's something that we could do to make a difference in this world. That's what I'm saying. It's all relative. You can't compare that to my father's time or my grandfather's time.
Yeah.
We didn't have the opportunity like this. But now there's a cigar boom. There's an interest in cigars. All of a sudden, charities are becoming part of what we could do. I like that. I finally understood it's not about cigars. It's about the people, the cause. So I started creating all these different shapes and everything to raise money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, to raise money for different things and everything. And during that time, because this was before cigar was actually like, really introduced and hot and everything. I started doing all these different things to raise money for charity. And I realized in life, the greatest blessing that one could have is to give back. That's the greatest gift that one could receive. The gift that you're able to give back. And maybe it could be as simple as that chicken soup. I'm not taking anything away because that chicken soup will save someone's life. And that is priceless. But in life, when you reach a certain opportunity that God has been good to you, and you have something that you could make a difference in life, then you have a responsibility. And that started opening doors and doors, and my train of thought changed and this and that. It moved on forward, and we started with it started with 2001, 9/11. We were the first, I think. And I just think that it was confirmed by a dear friend of mine who we have this little controversy going because I kind of stole his little, what do you call that, a Bigfoot, Steve Sanka. I don't have it here. It's in my office, and I'm using it as an ashtray anyway. I dug a hole right here, and I just put in my cigar out. But anyway.
I love it.
Anyway, he even said that, one of the first, I met him because he was one of the first bloggers that I was able to meet through this all cigar smokers, this and that. When first the internet started getting involved with cigars,
Yeah.
and that we were able to meet and everything. But even he said that Cigar Family was one of the first really bulletin boards made available for people who love cigars.
Mm-hmm.
And Cigar Family started in 1998, and here comes 2001. We were just talking about cigars and Opus X, and people were getting to meet each other because all through Fuente Opus X and all these things. And something that we will never forget. We will never forget. Everyone that's listening to this program knows exactly where they were on September 11, 2001.
Yeah.
We will never forget.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to allow anybody to forget. And 2001, we just all Cigar Family got together, and we just became emotionally involved. What we're going to do, support. We came out with a cigar, New York City of Heroes. We raised money for the Firemen and Widows Fund, everybody from Ground Zero. And it started from there, this and that. We realized that our community has such a passion to be able to, through our love for cigars, that we could do something that we all could give back. And then it evolved to Cigar Family Travel Foundation, which was the school was inaugurated in 2004. And just been one charity after another and so forth. Today with the rare pinks with breast cancer, but talking about Cigar Family Travel Foundation was started as just a vision to help a few children who were looking for work so they could eat that day, because there were no schools. Some people could claim there was a classroom that didn't have electricity. There was maybe, think about, like, I would say 8 feet by 12, no electricity, blocks, no lighting, anything. And inside that classroom, in this entire community that consists of about, at that time, I would say 6 villages. Now it's grown to 13 villages that we support. But those 6 villages filled with children, because some of those families had 10, 12 children, everything. Think about this. Maybe 18, 20 children fit inside that little room. And there were children there from 6 to maybe 16 receiving classes. So the government and their census say they had a classroom in that community. But the reality is that those communities around that area are surrounded by nickel mines, strip mines, okay? Mm-hmm. And gold mines. Mm-hmm. The richest and the most biggest resources of the Dominican Republic. And it's a joint venture with the Dominican Republic government and international companies. And I've fought like hell, man. I became a rebel. Because let me tell you, so these international companies, I'm not going to mention what countries they come from. They want to do that shit in their country.
Right.
And yet the contamination, everything was happening. And there were no schools in those areas, because I know that area is intentionally repressed to keep people ignorant so they don't have a voice. And there was an area of violence and riots and this constantly, and the leader of the riot and everything would be given a weapon or a gun or, amongst whatever it is, to give him money, and he quiets it down and he becomes the power guy. It's old school shit. Come on, man. It's the old world, the way things always happen.
Yeah.
That has changed, huh? Cigar Family Travel Foundation came in. We started with what was intentionally intended to be small classroom with maybe 20, 30 students. With electricity, of course, even though there were batteries at those days, because there was no electricity, no running water, no roads to get in or out. We had to build 3 bridges to be able to get in and out of the community for the buses to be able to pick up students around the villages to get there, because students won't come. You had to motivate them. They never even probably seen vehicles, okay? So, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, there's testimony of people who know those days and see when it was. So anyway, What started out as a vision to teach a few children who were looking for work so they could eat that day. They were looking for work on our farms and anything they could do around there because there were no schools. What started out as just that vision, that small classroom teach children basic skills, how to read, write, basic arithmetic, turned into a 26-acre project that starts all the way from preschool and now is all the way through high school, has its own medical center. I mean, a clinic with pharmacy, with gynecology, with, dentistry, with laboratory, labs. I go there I have a group of visitors. First thing I go to the lab, I go check my blood. I want blood, check my, and people looking at me, you gonna check your blood? I'm gonna check food. Check my blood there. They put it on a computer, and within 40 seconds, I have a report of everything on my blood. State of the art. Today, even has a technical center teaching nursing, because it's incredible. There's in the whole state, there's not a nursing academy anywhere. And the community has changed. It's changing, okay? Everything is relative. When we were there, no roads, no electricity, anything like that. Homes were put together with old rusted tin or palm fronds and cardboard. And a lot of times, a lot of leftover rubbish from signs of political campaigns, because here it's huge, man. Whenever they have you think there's a campaign every 2 years or something, all the signs, there's so much money put in. People don't have money to eat, but the politicians, it's so freaking horrible what the money is spent on signs. So all these signs are taken down. So you used to see these houses all patched up with signs of one party, another party, and palm fronds in between, and leaking more inside. When it rained, then it rained outside in the garden. There was no gardens. Everything was, dirt and sand. But today, moving forward, many of those things, today there's asphalt road, there's sidewalks, there's electricity with lights. A lot of these homes, you don't see those homes anymore unless you go further in, and it's a development. It starts spreading. Brick homes painted. They got their tin roofs, but the tins are painted.
Yeah.
And you see they have gardens, and they're proud of the community. What has happened is incredible, but that's the community. The children.
Yeah.
Those children that were looking to, to find work for a day so they could eat that day. There's been over 10 graduation classes. 90% have moved on to universities. We had the Lost City Scholarship Fund, thanks to Andy Garcia and so forth, with the sales of and thanks to all the support of the brick and mortar retailers, was Toast Across America, and so many big-hearted cigar lovers, because this is all supported by people who love cigars. Today you look at it, we have a technical school teaching nursing. You have a real full-blown baseball stadium. With bleachers, lockers, showers, the whole thing for male, female, and the bleachers, the whole with a wall around it and everything, that was initially supported by Cigar Aficionado. We have basketball, volleyball, have an amphitheater. People learn. They learn how to dance, music, plays, performance, and everything. And right now, with the contribution of Hublot, which is, we had a collaboration for the last 10 years. They've come out with several series of the Fuente Opus X or Fuente watches, and that money from the royalties, that in my arrangement, my commitment with them is, we're not in the watch business, we're not in the jewelry business. We sell cigars, but also we have a responsibility to give back, and that's what they do. They love to give back. They help so many things. They build soccer stadiums in the difficult areas in Brazil, and they do so much, and they help the coral. They support the coral reefs in the Caribbean to protect them and preserve them. And they do so much charity that from day one, everything's in escrow, and right now. It's being built, the Academy of Arts of Cigar Family. Now, They're going to teach journalism. You're going to have masters of ceremony. We're going to have a musical school supported by the great master, Arturo Sandoval, 10 Grammys, the Medal of Honor, all these different things, the great Arturo Sandoval musical school, recording studio, as far as the plastics and all the different arts and everything. So, this is recognized by United Nations. The United Nations being the model in the Caribbean of social responsibility giving back. It's called Cigar Family Travel Foundation Cigar Family Project. 100% that is raised thanks to brick and mortar retailers, to all retailers, thanks to people with big hearts, thanks to people who enjoy cigars, and even people who don't enjoy cigars would have been there and see the results when we all get together with big hearts and giving back. And it's all through a cigar. It all started with a cigar. All started with a vision, or not a vision, a dream to be able to grow a wrapper in the Dominican Republic that took us to an area that was obsolete, unknown, unpenetrated, very, very difficult. But again, going back to crisis and going back to my father, the perseverance, one thing led to another. I think that God gave us a product that doesn't happen to normal families.
Mm-hmm.
To have a product so controversial and everything, to become one of the most sought after cigars in the world, and brands that was built the way it was when it was so hot, only 2 cigars were sold at a time. 25 years later, the demand continues to grow. That you have luxury brands like an LVMH company like Hublot, who uses that trademark on one of their watches, and you have the collaboration was probably the finest men's luxury clothing, Stefano Ricci with the Fuente Opus X. I just think that God, this doesn't happen. I'm just a humble cigar maker. God gave us this vehicle to make us aware of the needs of the community. And through the Fuente Opus X, I think that the most important result in the product of Fuente Opus X is Cigar Family Travel Foundation. So, and think about this, how this conversation started. If it wasn't for that box of A's and Marvin Shanken, and Rush Limbaugh that paid $20,000, that scared the shit out of me. Think about, these lights and this justification why things happen. I did not know that part of the world. How many people want to give back when they have received and they feel blessed and they want to share. So for that, I'm very, very grateful. I'm grateful, and I won't forget. That's why I have to mention Marvin, because that's really how it all started. It ignited the first, curiosity. How could this be possible?
Yeah. Well, speaking of scaring the shit out of people, I was so when we had Jose on, I talked to a local shop owner to us, Mark W. at Stogie's on Grand in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I said, hey, do you know?
Gentlemen, I need one break. 1 second, please. Please forgive me.
Brother.
Oh, yeah. No.
Okay.
No issue. So if you guys haven't seen the Fuente family documentary on YouTube, it's 44 minutes long. It gives a lot of the history, and it's just fantastic. Gives a snapshot. It's put out in 2003. Very well done to get a snapshot of all of the history and the turmoil that the Fuente family has endured over the years. Please go and watch that. Yeah,
and also the hand-rolled documentary, which you can find on Amazon. You can find on Apple. Pretty much anywhere you can buy movies, you can find the hand-rolled documentary. And Carlito has some great stuff in that documentary as well. And we're gonna go into a little bit more here with Carlito in a minute. But everybody has, if you haven't heard. We're not going to ask him to go into the full story here because it's been told quite a few times. So the history and the funny, interesting story about the beginnings of Opus X, the origin of Opus X, which is maybe the most iconic cigar brand in the world. you can see all about that on that Fuente family documentary, which I echo Garrett saying you should definitely go and watch that on YouTube. But there's some, it's one of those brands that kind of transcends understanding. Really, it's been, even when it first arrived on shelves, back in 1995, it you don't regularly see products in any kind of product category that literally take an industry by storm. But this is one of those products that did, and it honestly has maintained that and grown that level of greatness ever since then. So, and we want to talk a little bit more about kind of the future of that brand, coming up here soon.
And as Liana is putting in the comments to, watch and follow their YouTube page. The Meet the Professor program is fantastic. They have great guests, and, all the stories that are told there are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Today is just a snapshot of some of that, but go back and watch some of those videos. Are great.
Yeah.
So it looks like we got Carlito back.
So go ahead.
You ready to rock and roll, Carlito?
Gentlemen, yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll, but whatever you said about me, it's good. You could edit it out. It doesn't matter. I'm sure, whatever, but it's good. But I just saw Liana's name there, and I'm so happy that she's watching. That's nice.
So, Carlito, I got this picture from Mark W. at Stogies on Grand and said to ask Jose Blanco what the hell this is.
So now we get to ask you.
Jose said, that was all Carlito. I have no idea what the hell that is. And it's this. So my question to you is, what the hell is this? And what would your father think?
Well, my father would think that that's his son being his son. And today I'm wearing I'm wearing black and everything. But look, this is, we were born this way. This my grandfather. I got photos of my grandfather. We call them camisetas. This is how we grew up. My grandfather in his camiseta with his fighting roosters and Cynthia on one side of him and me on the other side. It's where we grew up, and it's really our dress. As a matter of fact, one of the first labels that I made with Don Carlos many, many years ago, when I first started designing things and had started getting, becoming influential, I had such a respect and such a love for, I don't know, I'm like this kid, like some people say like Willy Wonka and everything, build his own, build the truck. I go back and I see my grandfather sitting there looking at the wrappers on, over his knees and everything, and his camiseta. And this is who we are and everything. And it was my daughter who came out with, I had made the cigar and everything. It was going to be something, that we're going to make this huge, this beautiful package for it. And I'm working on the blend and so forth. And was it Liana who asked that question?
Yeah, she said it was my old man in PJs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, no, you sleep with those, but also when you have a cold, you can wipe your nose with and everything because they're easy to wash. But no, and it was Liana that came out with the Naked King thing, and then I said, no, what we got to the Naked Kings is the undershirts, Listen, we're not kings. I don't want it to come out that way, but it's just, I think that is, it's a way to teach. Mm-hmm. It's a way to teach that, and sometimes you teach with humor, and it's a way that we grew up. And seriously,
yeah.
And that is the way we grew up in our neighborhood. That's the way I played ball and everything, with that white T-shirt.
Yeah,
and that, and to my father. My father never wore a dress shirt without that T-shirt underneath. And I don't recall, because I learned from my father and my grandfather. I just cannot wear a shirt without that T-shirt underneath. And the only thing later on in life, my life has gotten a little darker, a little bit more mysterious. I'm using a lot more black now because I heard black makes you look thinner. But so I got into the black culture, but no, but it is true. It really is. This is our dress. This is really, listen, it's not unusual to go in the old factory in Ybor City and you see people who are fermenting tobacco working. They take off the shirt so they don't dirty and they're under the shirt. So it's part of really what it was. And it was a way to bring humor and humanize who Carlos Fuente, father and son, really are. You just listen. All we want to do is have fun, share the love, and bring a smile to someone's heart. And through our cigars, and through our labor, and through our work, and our passion, and it's a way. And Liana has a lot to do with that. She is, she's my partner in crime. She's unbelievable.
Love it. Well, hopefully we'll get to talk to her.
Yeah, absolutely. So we while you were taking a break, Carlito, we were talking about the documentary film that is people can find out on YouTube, and you in that you go into the origin stories about Opus X, and we encourage people to go watch that. But Opus X being such an iconic brand for ever since it was first released, what does and again, we're not asking you to divulge any secrets, but what just kind of in a basic sense, what does the future hold for Opus X? Is it always developing? Are you always working on new things in the background to surprise us with things even better than we've had before?
That's again another good question, and a question impossible to accurately answer, but I could tell you what my wishes are, what my hopes are, what my dreams, because if you have hopes and dreams, you could visualize something. And yes, it's not over. It's a saga, a story that continues to develop. There is Fuente Opus X that's a 25th anniversary that should have been released last year. It wasn't released because of the COVID. And I'm not sure it's going to be released this year, because if timing right, I'm not going to release. Those cigars are made. The bands are made. We don't rush. Things happen for a reason, but you cannot mention Fuente Opus X without mentioning what we were speaking about recently in the last few moments about the development of charity work, developing of things and what could be done, and how Fuente Opus X has gone beyond just a cigar. It's developed into a society. It's developed into a community within a community of people who is, I don't want to compare it to any rock group, because that would be very selfish, or it would be, I don't want to make it larger than what it is. But there's people, the fans of a certain style of a certain band and everything, they follow them. Fuente Opus X has a huge following, and we have a huge responsibility, which is the reason why I'm living. I'll be damn sure that over my dead body, something will be done with Opus X, unless it's perfect, because I know the responsibility comes with that brand, and it's more than the cigar. It's everything that it embodies and everything it encompasses. There will be things coming out with Opus X. There's a development of different things, but it will never be rushed. It will happen when the time comes. And of course, like everything else, you never know what could happen. Life brings you situations which could be something that is a crisis, but it's always a way to get that crisis with experience and see how you could fuse that together to evolve into a new flower. Not to be poetic, but Fuente Pasex will continue to be everything that everybody expects it to be.
Yeah.
And hopefully, with time, more and more people will learn to appreciate it. Because realistically, I understand, I respect, this is the most controversial cigar that's ever hit the market. There has never been a cigar that has brought so much controversy than the Fuente Pasex. The very beginning, people said it was impossible, it doesn't exist, this and that. Then it brought a lawsuit with the Mondavis, with the Rothschilds, and every way, and people hate it or people love it, and my competitors hate it, and and the retailers hate it, and but some of the cigar lovers love it. So it's that kind. You know what? But if it wasn't a true love story, and it wasn't real with checks and balances and trials and tribulations and celebrations and tragedies, it wouldn't be alive. And Fuente Pasex has become something that it's got a story. It's real. It's the first brand in history, the first, that you have a real family, not models that were picked from a corporate company to take a photograph to advertise. A real father and son who did not have a brand yet. There was only a farm, but people said it was impossible. So we were forced to kind of say the dream is real. This is a farm. We're growing tobacco. And people said it was not true. It was the first brand in history that brought a father and son with the origin in the soil and eventually developed into a brand because it started as Project X.
Yeah.
And that photograph of a father and son with their Panama hats, their Cuban attire, and their guayabera. Yeah, well, that was taken when the sun went down. We were already hot, whatever.
Yeah.
That was the photo taken before. We were hot, then we put the shirts on. And the white linen shirts, which is very traditional Cuban attire.
Yep.
That photograph changed the world of cigars. Mm-hmm. That brand changed the world of cigars. If I look back 30 years ago, going back to a convention or a big show or a trade show or something, all the cigar makers and manufacturers and people who went to the event, they wore their Armani suits, or they wore their whatever they wore, but it was always they wore suits and their ties, and they wore their best attire and everything. You go to an event today, and I guarantee you that maybe 50% will have a guayabera and they're wearing a Panama hat and a cigar in their pocket. That's the Fuente look.
Mm-hmm.
You look at packaging today, before Fuente Pasex, a lot of bands were brown and white. A lot of boxes were just either cardboard or thin wood covered with paper labels and everything. You look at Fuente Pasex that came out with a mahogany box, thick wood and everything. You look how, when cigars were mild, because at that time, the market wanted mild. Everything was Miller Lite, Marlboro Light. The marketing companies who were the only ones that the big companies could advertise, the sweet smell of success, sweet, mild. Fuente Pasex was napalm that was dropped. It woke everybody up, and all of a sudden, I didn't expect for it to be a big seller. It was. I just wanted to prove we could grow wrappers here, and I want to make a cigar that brought back my heritage and everything that I remember as a young boy. Oh, I thought in my mind, this is the cigar I want to make. And it took me years to finally come out with it. But it changed the world of cigars. Changed the world of the way people look, the way people dress, the way people make bands. Look at all the boxes today. Look at all the people with the heavy woods, with the boxes, with the labels, with the the embossing, the colors. Fuente Pasex changed the world.
Yeah.
So, it's like, what's going to happen? There's always going to be tomorrow as long as I'm around and the ticker's still ticking. I'm not going to give up. But I have a great responsibility. But how do you make it better? When would there ever be another Pasex? I doubt it in my lifetime. things happen. We're seriously, realistically, you and I we're speaking. How would anyone else in this world? The stars were aligned. It was a time when cigars were mild.
Mm-hmm.
It was a time when everything was different. It was a time when packaging was simple. It was before the boom. Cigar Aficionado had just come out. There's just so many things that happened. I was also, 30 years younger, because Open Sex is already 26 years. But our first crop was 1991 was our first crop. So how many years has it been? Think about it.
Yeah.
I was a lot younger. Things were different. But listen, how is it possible? We keep creating new things. We keep doing new things because thank God the farm has continued to grow. We keep buying land around it. We're growing different seeds. We're growing sun-grown, shade-grown. So we could get different parts of the plant, and we use it in all our other Fuente products. And we tweak this and tweak that, and we could do this. But another Fuente Open Sex, I don't think that anyone in my lifetime will ever be able to do that. I'm sure that someone in the next generation or so will be able to make another Fuente Open Sex. And I anticipate, or I would suspect, because that would be the cigar that has a beautiful band and everything has been genetically engineered to give you what you want, because you won't be able to depend on nature to make it better than a Fuente Open Sex. And you snap your finger and the cigar lights it by itself. That would be the next. That's the way you're gonna outperform an Open Sex.
Yeah. So in recent years, two of the biggest companies in premium cigars both lost their patriarchs. So we lost Don Carlos and we lost Jose Orlando Padron. And we know recently it was announced that there's going to be a collaboration that you and George are going to work on together to pay tribute to those men. So talk to us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, that's something that's going to be something very special. There's no doubt about it. The respect and the admiration I had for Jose Orlando Padron is it's up on a high pedestal. I hope it's the same with Jorge Padron and my father. I'm sure it is. We go back a long time as fierce competitors, not the recent times, not the Jorge and Carlito, no. No, I'm talking about my father and Don Orlando. As we knew him, was Orlando Padron. I know his name is Jose Orlando, and I discovered that after years later, because we all knew him as Orlando. Back in the 60s, our greatest market was Miami, Tampa, New Jersey, New York, the Cuban community. But basically, the biggest one was Miami. And then when Padron came in, 64, wherever when they started, they became very quickly they were very powerful. Miami, with time, they became the king. Padron cigars in Miami, they ruled it. But we sold a lot more cigars because we sold a popular price cigar, was called Moya, which was one of the biggest sellers in Cuba. And our cousin, who was the sales manager for Balsa in Cuba, registered the name Moya, but he didn't have the money. He just came from Cuba in the early 1960s. And he offered it to my father. My father would make the cigar. He would own the brand, and he would sell it. But listen, it was crazy, man. We sold, I think it was up to 700,000 cigars, a month in Miami of Moyas. One size, it was 5.5 by 42 or 43. Let's say 43, okay? Because I don't know how consistent they were. But I'm sure, because I remember I filled many boxes and I packed many cases, and I used to fill many containers to go to Miami. But Padron became the king of Fumas, Cazadores, and number 4s.
Mhm.
And so we have this relationship that goes back. We know the family had highest respect. But back in the 70s, when we were in Nicaragua, there was only, when we went, we were the last of 4 factories that began making cigars in Esteli. Before us was Joya, Nicaragua, which is owned by General Anastasio Somoza, who was the dictator or general or president or owner in Nicaragua at that time, whose factory, or he surrounded himself with the best people, and he owned the factory along with his partners, and the brand was Joya, Nicaragua. His partners were Juan Francisco Bermejo, who grew all the tobacco for the original Joya, which is a whole totally different cigar, the original Joya, Nicaragua, and Fernando Fuente, who was a Cubano, old. He just passed away. I think he was about 98 years old. Most people in the cigar industry, they live into their 90s. But he was an incredible craftsman, incredible maestro, professor, teacher. He built the original Joya Nicaragua as a cigar man. And Simon Camacho, which you're familiar with the Camacho brand, the original owner, Simon Camacho, Cubano, very, I knew well, I got to know through my father before he passed. They were the original owners of Joya, Nicaragua. And then you had Padron, and you had one other company that I remember. I don't remember of anybody else. There might have been somebody else very small, but I never heard of them, or never saw them. Rene Garcia Pulido, which today we don't even know about, but it was Carlito Cigars. During the 70s, we got a call about going to Nicaragua and everything, and we started this company with the partners that were originally with Bermejo. I mean, the partner was Somoza, with Bermejo and Fonticella. And being in Nicaragua in those times, we spent a lot of time with Mr. Padron, because there was no place to go. We used to go to Hotel Chico. He would be there congregating with other Cuban families, which were only a few back then. And the families that were there were basically growing tobacco, or they were, preparing tobacco, stripping tobacco, or merchandising tobacco, raw tobacco, or bales of tobacco. So we had that relationship. And moving fast forward, we always had a huge respect for each other. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, it was always that mutual respect. And there's so many things that I don't think there's other two families that I'm aware of, that close to, that we have so much in common. I mean, the teachings of our father, I'm sure there's others, but not that I'm that close to that father and son relationship, father and sons, father and daughter, that, the struggles that you go through, the revolution in Nicaragua, going through hard times, coming back, the era of Miami after the Cuban embargo, all these things. There's a lot of it's a lot of similarities, and just and I became I always had great admiration for the kids, they're men, but with Orly and Jorge, we always had a nice relationship. But during the last, I don't know, it's 6 or 8 years. I mean, this has been going on for a while with the FDA and everything. Jorge Padron was one of the first persons I called, because when we started to form Cigar Rights of America in the very beginning, a lot of people don't know this, but this was born out of S-Chip, with the struggles of going through S-Chip and so forth. And my father was a man of very few words. But we were I forgot what city we were in. We were at a IPCPR, and we had a gentleman from Cigar Association of America named Norman Sharp coming to address how we have to pay and this and that and blah, 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 and the government and how everybody had to get more money, this and that. And I remember my father sitting at a table with our intimate group of some colleagues and some people. My father says, I could say it. My father says, you know what? This shit is all politics, and keep paying money to these lobbyists and these lawyers and these politicians, all bullshit. You guys are never going to get anywhere unless you take it to the people. You have to have a people's organ. It's the voice of the people, which is the only thing that can make a difference. The government's going to take more money from the tobacco industry, from the cigar industry, and they're going to say yes, and they're going to have more money. And these idiots who have agreed to put a warning label and everything to kiss the government's ass, to say the government, because they put this warning label that the Cigar Association of America agreed on, that they want to leave us alone, leave the cigar industry. Well, we know what happened after that. They're coming back for more and more and more and more and more. My father says, so take it to the people. And there was a gentleman sitting with us. His name is Keith Park of Prometheus International. And Keith Park had just gone through a big battle with California, the big tax. And he was able to raise some money, but he was very vocal and was able to postpone that tax. I want to say because it keeps coming back and so forth. But he won the battle. And my father told Keith, you got to start an organization that's about the people. And Keith says, well, you know who? He says, I'll put the money. And I swear this is how Cigar Rights America started. And Keith called, he reached out to Jeff Borshowitz, and Jeff Borshowitz, I don't know if it was Jeff or who was Glenn Loop and this and that. And once, because I had nothing to do with as far as reaching out to, once they told me they had things going, but they needed manufacturers, somebody to support from the beginning until we were able to get enough consumers to become a consumer organization. So the first person I called was Jorge Padron. I said, Jorge, I need your support. We're building this organization that's going to be a consumer organization, but we need manufacturers to get it started, to finance it. We need to be on the board. We need to protect our interests and the interests of brick and mortar, because that's very important. Family businesses, the interests and the rights of consumers to be able to enjoy a cigar. So I called Jorge Padron first. Then I called Robbie Levin, who's our partner. Then I called, Eric Newman. I called the people close to me, and I said, I need you to give me support. Lito Gomez, of course, I called him right away. This is our interest against big corporation and big government. So that's how, that's the respect I had for Jorge, because I know we had the same principles, the same common interests in our families. And during all these events that took forward, unfortunately, we were not able to build it in such a way that it became a total consumer association, that the few manufacturers who are involved have had to support it. But going through all these meetings in Miami and so forth, Jorge and I became very, very close. I mean, we had meetings with big government and FDA and, I'm smiling because I'm not there now, but I was shitting in my pants, man. I don't like that. Listen, I don't like to see the government, all this stuff, man. And you're looking at some of these people and you're trying to explain to them a cigar. And I'm looking at saying, this guy is younger than my son. He's going to make a decision on my life. Mm-hmm. He's never picked up a cigar. No, the first thing I would say, he has no clue, but he's writing all the laws. These freaking, now I'm going to say, these fucking bureaucrats,
yep,
that we're supporting with our tax dollars are going to run my life. Were they in Nicaragua and they were 17? No, they were in their air conditioning home, or they were in their Yale University or something that the father has a contact or a lot. It's all, you start realizing what really is the tiki and the taki. They're wishing it's all about money.
Yep.
And anyway, George and I were Jorge always insisted I sat by his side, because all through all these with the big companies, and meetings with the big boys, I'm not going to mention the 3 or 4, the big boys, and the conflict of interest of family companies, the handmade cigars and mass-produced cigars and all this stuff, and the description of cigars. Bro, it was rough years, very rough, tough, painful, sleepless nights. And Jorge and I always sat next to each other. He always insisted, because he was always so eloquent and so prepared and had and so diplomatic and worked things out. He's the smooth of the smooth, and he's so good. And sometimes we would get into like a a checkmate that, we're not going anywhere. And he used to signal me, hitting me on the side table. It's the time for me to get up and hit the table. Let me tell you something, guys. I'm telling you, we're going to fight this. It's their shit up. But it's a relationship that grew and grew. And one day I'm in Miami, the events, we used to have our board meetings there. It was most of the time in his office because that everybody was easy to get to and so forth. And one day everybody's leaving and he tells me, Carlito, would you like to have a scotch? Everybody's left. You have to have a scotch and everything with me. You just have a scotch. And I don't have to be home for a while. I said, of course. And I've said it before. to have a drink, a free drink, I'm not going to say no, Absolutely not, man. I said, okay. So I remember precisely he had like a small little room and this and that. And he tells me, what would you like? I have Chivas because I know your father loved Chivas 18. I have Chivas here. But, and I have Pinch. His father loved Pinch, Dimple, Pinch, whatever.
Dimple Pinch, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was his father's scotch. And I said, no, let's do the Dimple. Let's do the Pinch in honor of your father because I'm here in your home. And we started reminiscing because I had just lost my father a couple of years before his father. And I was in the middle of this crisis again, going through this and that. And I remember the moment that I heard his father had passed because I knew he was in the hospital, and Jorge kept me informed what was going on because I was calling him a lot. And when he passed, I left from Dominican. I don't do this. I left from Dominican Republic to Miami because I felt I had to go because I know how close he and his family are to his father. Like I'm sure every other family, but that relationship that we had between us, I had just gone through this and I felt that I had to find the intestinal fortitude, the strength to show up there. So I just showed up unexpected. And I remember places closed and everything, of course. And I go to the front and buzz, go to the front. And the young lady comes on. And I said, and she knew who I was. And I said, please tell Jorge or any one of the Padron family that I'm here because there was no visual suspicion anybody was there because the parking lot, basically the cars were hidden or something. And I know that they needed their privacy at that moment. And they said, one moment, Carlito. And Jorge be waiting for you in the back. And they were in a private room. I don't know, somewhere in the back. I'd never been in that room before. I think maybe it was his office where his desk, a main room. And his brother was there, his sister-in-law, his wife was there and everything. And I remember sitting down with him and saying, Jorge, listen, I went through this. It's not easy. You're going to be fine. This is what's going to happen. It's the only thing I could tell him. I don't know. I just needed to be there. So that day we're having that drink and we start talking about our fathers, of course. That's where the conversation always goes, about our father, our tradition, our children. We always talk about our children, our wishes, this and that. And we're like, he's much younger than I am, but we were like two old men talking about our lives and the integrity of our father, the passion, how each of them were so proud of their children, of their family, and of their work. And I don't know who said it, how it came about, but it was like, could you imagine if you make a cigar for my father, or I'll make a cigar for your father, or I said that to him, or I don't know, but the whole thing came out that we thought it would be a good idea, and it went developing months and months after that, that I would make a cigar blended, that if I was to make a cigar, that it would be the cigar that I would think it would pay homage to his father and that he would be happy to enjoy a cigar coming from my hand. Because I don't think his father enjoyed any cigar that wasn't a Padron. And, I think it's part of the old school mentality. And I don't see my father smoking cigars from other people either. And, and that's the thing. I'll make a cigar for your father and you make a cigar for my father. A cigar not a cigar for Jorge Padron, not a cigar for Padron smoker, not a Padron cigar or trying to get near, making a Carlito Fuente cigar that for the love and the affection and the appreciation, the admiration I have for his father, that this would be a gift from me to his father, and he would do vice versa. Yeah. So that's where we're at. The cigars, our cigars have been in the age room. I go back and I smoke them all the time. I try them. It scares the shit out of me because it's such a great responsibility. It's going to be a special project. You know, this pandemic has held everything back because I think something like this, the response, it's not about selling cigars. It's not many cigars. It's about the responsibility that we have to pay tribute to people that we respect and admire and love. So I'm hoping that this year we'll be able to introduce it. I don't know what's going to happen. It's just seeing the momentum, but it's not something you can introduce if it's just not a big celebration or event, something where there's a lot of people that are going to be able to come freely and attend and not be concerned about COVID and masks and smoking and so forth. Because Jorge is a young man, and I expect to be here for still a couple of more years at least. Mm-hmm. So there's no hurry, but this project is something very, very special. It's going to commemorate the family, our passion for life, the stories. There's so many details that go into this presentation that it's just more than the cigar. It truly is a tribute like no tribute has been done for fathers in the history of the cigar industry.
Yeah. Well, I know the cigar community as a whole is excited about it. Garrett and I are very excited about it, and we know that all things come at the right time. So when that time comes, we'll be lined up at our brick and mortar to pick some up, and we know so many others will as well. So we look forward to that project. And I think
thank you, Garrett. Thank you.
Is it time?
I mean, Matt, sorry.
No, it's all right. It is time for this week's Numero de los Muertos. And guys, as always, Numero de los Muertos is brought to us by our friends at Smoke Inn Cigars. So take just a couple seconds and watch this spot about Smoke Inn's Cigar of the Month program. All right, time for this week's Numero de los Muertos, brought to us by Smoke Inn Cigars.
All right.
Garrett, take it away.
So if you haven't played this game with us before, I give a number. We play at 20 questions with our guest and Matt and our viewers. And we try and guess how these people have died. So on average, this is a 20-year average in the U.S., 62 people a year die from this every year.
All right. In the U.S., every year, on average, 62 people die from this. And Quentin, you need to take your head out of the gutter. No.
That's definitely not it.
That's definitely not it. That will never be it. That will never be the answer.
Mm-mm.
So just saying.
Just throwing that out.
Carlito's taking a little break, but that's all right. We'll viewers, as always, get in there in the comments with guesses. All right, 62 people. Oh, Carlito's back. 62 people. Let me do this here. All right, Carlito. So Garrett gave us the number for Numero de los Muertos. So on average, he said 62 people a year in the U.S. die from this every year.
Okay, and we've got a couple guesses. It is not choking. I actually just did lightning. I think that was last week. Carlito, go ahead. What do you got?
Shark attacks?
No, sir. I did that one too. That's only.
Well, you know what? Florida was not in the survey then.
That's right. No gator attacks.
Susan Tobacco.
Is that it?
It is.
Susan Tobacco got it.
We got a winner. We got a winning guess.
Wow, beautiful! I'm so happy. Listen, I love them. They're the best, man. They're great people.
So it's really 62 people.
62 people a year die from bee or wasp stings.
Wow.
Oh God,
So from allergies, I assume.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anaphylactic shock.
Wow. Well, that's
Good.
that was
a quick one.
Yeah, quick right off the bat. We get a great winning guess. That was outstanding. Well done, Susan.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
So that was this week's Numero de los Muertos. As always, Numero de los Muertos, brought to us by our great friends at Smoke Inn. So, Carlito, now we dive into some questions that have nothing to do with cigars. So, if you could hear the thoughts of one living person for 10 minutes, who would it be and why?
Wow. Living person for 10 minutes. Who would it be and why? Well, I don't know who that person is, but maybe that's a question. Living person for 10 minutes, who would it be and why? You know, that's something that is obviously is not somebody that I know, because I could call them up and ask them, you know, what are they thinking or whatever it is. Any living person. I don't know who my Undertaker is, but who's going to be or whatever. But I would ask that question. You know, I would like to see what brands of makeup and who's going to be the hairstylist. I would like to talk to him first. I want to make sure that if I'm going to be visual, I want to look the best I can. Make sure that they got enough of the, you know, the ink and the dye and all this stuff to, you know, make me look like me at least.
Well, that is something we're not going to have to worry about for many, many years, Carl.
Well, God, from your words to God's ears. But, you know, that's a question. I mean, someone living that I would, who know and why and this and that. Well, I would ask, but yet I don't want to. There's nothing that I could say that I will come out of this okay. But you know, think about it. I guess that's why you set it up this way. You guys, you know, now that I'm thinking about this, you know, that's why you got me fresh. You know, it's. But I would ask Mark Anthony why he left J-Lo, or J-Lo why she left Mark Anthony.
All right.
You know, I would be curious about that, because to me, Mark Anthony, the voice of Mark Anthony, and this and that, and you know. And I just thought of them as just being a great, you know, being Hispanic, Latino, and seeing both of them, like what they struggled to come together, and the passion that they vibrated and everything through their videos when they were romancing, and both being from the Bronx and, you know, New Yorkers, and I say, wow, what a beautiful couple, man. You know, this is what life should be. Two people who are so separate. They were separated, but they come together and they have the twins, and all of a sudden I was really, really, really upset with J-Lo. I mean, to me, J-Lo was like, oh my gosh, she was a goddess. I was just so upset. I didn't want to see her, not even in print or hear her music. Then I find out that the skinny man is not so easy. You know, that there's two sides to every story, but anyway.
Yeah.
But I would like to ask that question. Why, you know?
Yeah. All right. So if you were about to get into a fight, what soundtrack music would come on?
Oh my God, that's an easy one.
What's that?
Well, my first reaction is, of course, it's easy. It's from, yeah, there's no question about that. But then I thought, well, I'm going to be cute. I'm going to say Jaws.
That is so great.
Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but don't forget, I'm a Florida boy, man. You know, you know, I know we're known for lightning, you know, Tampa Bay Lightning, and the lightning capital of the world, but also, you know, sharks. I'm afraid of. That's one thing. The older I get, when I was young, I used to say, I know they're here, but you know what? If he gets close to him, I'm just going to punch him in the nose. But now, as I get 5 feet from the trinkles of the water getting close to the shore, I'm just looking around if there's any sharks around. I'm scared shitless of those sharks.
That's a great answer, Jaws. I got to remember that one.
That is
all right.
solid.
So for this next one, Carlito, you have to choose one of the following. You could hit a home run as a starting pitcher. You could score a touchdown as a defensive lineman. You could score a goal in a hockey game as the goalie, or you could score a goal in a soccer game as the goalie.
Easy one. Home run is a starting pitcher in Yankee Stadium. I'm a baseball, grew up baseball. A Yankee Stadium because although I'm a Boston Red Sox fan at heart, my daughter married a Yankee. So, and I know she's listening, so he might be listening too and everything. Even though I'm starting to like him little by little, it's okay. But no. Seriously, I love him. But you know what? That's the Cuban thing. I got to bust balls, I needle you needle me, and all that's all cool. And I always joke around with him because I call him Meathead. It's like the Archie Bunker. I know that nobody can see Archie Bunker unless they look it up on YouTube. But
right,
listen, he's doing his job to keeping my daughter happy, and I'm doing my job to being the asshole father-in-law. We're just doing our jobs. And no, I listen. I just like that he's a great person. He worked, he's an attorney, worked in the Yankee organization for so many years and all that. And I'm just blessed and everything. Talk about family, talk about perseverance and continuity and planning for the future. I have so much faith in the future of our company because we have put together a team, and he is a very prominent position in the team of the family. He's now headquarters working in the organization. And that's why you see that I'm just so confident about the future, and I'm so bubbly and going through the crisis, because I'm never going to go over the crisis of being without my father after my entire life being, he was my pillar and everything. But that I see that the team that has been built in the Fuente organization with the next generation and generations that are coming, that just brings me so much. You know what? It's nice to know that when you're going to move on to another world, that you're going to leave the world that you leave, you're going to leave it in good hands. And I have no doubt about that at all.
Yeah. Legacy is important. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this week's notable smokable. And guys, as always, notable smokable is brought to us by our friends at Ace Prime. Ace Prime, notable cigars, notable passion, notable purpose. So Carlito, each week each of us mention a cigar that we smoked recently that caught our interest. It was a cigar we enjoyed, that it could be something that's been on the market for many, many years that we revisited for the first time in a long time, or it could be something brand new to the market. Now, obviously for you, you're smoking your family's product all the time, but do you ever get a chance to reach outside and smoke something from another company? And has there been something interesting to you lately?
Well, it being in the pandemic, being locked down, I don't have much opportunity to smoke things from the outside. The cigars that I've smoked recently are cigars that I'm tasting tobacco that's developing from our aging warehouses, or cigars that are in production today, which I smoke all the time. I'm smoking today new Don Carlos on a new profile that's being developed. But I have smoked cigars from other people that caught my attention. I normally don't smoke cigars from other people because I have not been around recently.
Yeah.
But going to Miami, it's been over a year when I'm referring to this situation. I remember that we had to come in for an emergency meeting when I meet the governor of Florida, who was going to be with the president of the United States in Daytona for the Daytona 500. I think the president was going to do the pace car and everything. And it was like an emergency meeting, so much so that I had to get a private plane because it was important. There's only going to be 3 people that were going to be there. One was George Padron, one was from Oliva Tobacco Corey, and the other one was Alan Rubin. that were going to be there. It was a last minute thing. And it was important that I came and speak to the governor, explained our situation with the FDA, and to see if we could get any executive relief or anything. We were doing whatever we could. I remember going into the office, and this is a true story. That's why I like to mention it. And I was so tired, man. I mean, I didn't sleep the night before. I had to get up early, real early flight. It was a private airline. There was like 2 other executives on there, and I had to get a piggyback ride, whatever it was. And I remember getting to the office, and there was nobody there. And Jorge was. I said, Jorge, man, do me a favor. Give me one of your strongest Cuban double espresso, no sugar. Want a cigar? I said, for sure. I didn't even have cigars with me. I forgot the cigars. I said, yeah, bring me a cigar. And at that moment, Corey came in from Oliva, and he had cigars with him. And he says, you have a cigar? I said, no. He said, want a cigar? And I remember he gave me a cigar. I had no intention of smoking that cigar. And I had it in my hand. And then Jorge comes in with a coffee and a cigar, put a cigar there. I said, man, I cannot. It would be so wrong for me to get the Oliva cigar, save it, and light the Padron, because I have gone to Padron's office other times and I enjoyed a Padron cigar, obviously out of good gesture and hospitality and everything, and they're great cigars. I lit Oliva cigar and smoking blah, 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 this and that, and waiting for one thing or another before we all left to have our meeting, waiting for Alan Rubin, who was late. He was driving from, I forgot, Fort Lauderdale, whatever. But I remember telling Corey, this is one hell of a damn good cigar. It was just on. It was, I think it was Melanio, whatever. I don't know. Melanio, but it was delicious, and I was caught by surprise. And I don't have an opportunity to smoke some other people's cigars, but when they're good, they're good. But I don't have to smoke people's cigars to know that if they're good or not good, because you see that by the results of their business and their sales. Mm. And there's 2 cigars in the world, if you want to categorize them: the one that sells and the one that doesn't sell. Mm. And I think a lot has to do with just personal taste and everything. But lately, what I've been smoking, just cigars that trying to review the cigars that we're doing, fine-tuning the things, seeing the tobacco, how it's progressing and so forth. I'm smoking a Don Carlos now, which is a pro-type cigar, which is delicious. It's very good. Because I'm trying to get more of you see the Cameroon, the relationship with the blend and so forth. And I'm going to smoke after that. I'm going to smoke a Casa Cuba.
Nice.
I got a Casa Cuba I'm going to enjoy later. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of great cigars. But yeah, for me to say that I've had a cigar or so forth that somebody's given me, haven't had many visitors lately. And I tell you, I miss that.
Yeah.
And for me, this last week, I had.
So you guys, I know. Listen, not for anything. I'm gonna leave my PO box and everything special delivery, because I know for those that want to send me cigars, your favorite cigars for me to try or something, because the Professor Jose Blanco's the only one thing I'm gonna ever be able to learn anything about cigars and tobacco and develop my palate is to try other things. Mm-hmm. So if you want to send me cigars, I'm more than happy to receive them.
Yes.
All right. Absolutely. This week for me, I was gifted a Protocol Cybercrimes, and it was delicious. It was just rich and chocolatey and delicious. So,
and mine this week was a Tatuaje Limited Lonsdale Extra Capa Especial. Very nice cigar in a size that I absolutely love. Box press Lonsdale, and just a wonderful little cigar that I enjoyed just a few days ago. So to give our viewers and listeners an idea of some stuff that we have coming up soon, on April 5th, April 5th, we're going to talk to Chris Monaco and Jeffrey Amendola from Amendola Family Cigar Company. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied there. So, Carlito, we just want to thank you for spending your afternoon with us on the show today. We're grateful and honored, and we had an absolute blast talking to you and hearing all these wonderful stories we look forward to hopefully someday being able to talk to you again and hear even more stories. And we wish you the absolute best in the over the next few months, and we hope to get together with you one of these days when the world starts to open up again. So thank you.
No, you're very welcome, both of you. Thank you, Garrett. I'm very curious about that cigar that you enjoyed. There's so many wonderful and rare cigars out there. I'm very curious. The name called my attention. Who's the manufacturer?
So Protocol Cigars is
Protocol, of course. I know Protocol.
Juan Cancel and
of course, Juan. El Policía, Los Policía.
Yeah. A lot of guys in the industry.
That's beautiful. No, it's great. I wasn't aware of that name, and it called my attention. But that goes to show you, that's exactly what I was saying. There's so many incredible, great cigars out there, and people with passion. And I've always promoted, I believe, and I want to continue to be an advocate of it. We need young people, good young blood, new ideas. I'm the Jurassic Park. I'm the dinosaur, but remember that Jurassic Park, if you ever discover one, you become a billionaire because you could have a very, very attractive, attraction. But the thing is that, it's just great to see all the younger generation, the new blood in the industry, and the things that they're doing is so exciting. It's wonderful. There's so many great cigars out there. Yeah. So I was just curious. I've never heard of it. The name called my attention. It's very creative, and I love it. I love every bit of it. As far as Pete Johnson, we know whatever Pete's going to offer is going to be great and everything. I mean, they're a great family, great cigar makers. I have all the highest respect, and it's just good. That is why that we are all able to enjoy so much progress and so forth, because there's just so many great chefs and are related to making cigars, and so many great people in our industry, so many master blenders and so forth. When I say chef, I meant like the blenders, the people create the stuff, and so many great entrepreneurs and all that. So I think you have a lot of programs that are going to be, everyone's going to be so exciting, and so many things to come. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, and Carlito, earlier you said that when you were talking about the picture with you and your father, that you guys aren't kings, but I would like to go on record saying you truly are a king of the industry, but you don't walk around like one. You give proper respect and love to everybody in this industry, and you are a wonderful, wonderful patriarch of this industry, and we thank you for that. And
that's very kind. I'm just grateful if somehow I could just earn my little welcoming into this great world of so many wonderful people.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't want any more than that.
Yeah.
I just wish that I could give as much as I'm capable of giving. And you know what? I'm just so blessed. Like I said, this is the best industry in the world. People like yourself, and just keep moving the goalposts, making this world just so special, and giving so much information and sharing these stories, because a cigar is like a book, or it's like an opera, or like any story. A cigar is a story. And I think that people are starting to appreciate it that way, that when you smoke a cigar, you talk about Juan Cancel, or you talk about, Pete Johnson, and you talk about anybody, or you talk about anybody in the industry. And we know there's so many. It tells a story of their family, it tells a story of their creativity, their desire, and everything to achieve one thing, only one thing, to make someone else happy.
Yeah.
And that's our goal in life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amen. So for all the viewers and listeners, we are grateful to you for spending time with us today. And every time that we do a show, we're just people in this business that want to get stories out there and let people understand how great the premium cigar world is. So if you would take just a moment, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the Facebook page, follow us on social media at HBT Cigar, just because we don't want you guys to miss these stories. All the great people that we have on this on this channel. We don't want you guys to miss these stories, because understanding these stories just makes us appreciate the cigars even more, and makes us appreciate the relationships and these bonds that come from the cigars that we enjoy so much. Carlito, thank you again. Stay on the broadcast studio for just a couple minutes after we go off the air, so we can mention a few things to you. So for everybody, again, thank you so much for spending time with us. And until we see you guys next time, as always, burn cigars,
not bridges. Thanks.
I love that.
Thanks, guys.
Beautiful.